Let's get this shared.
I'm here for it. I'm ready.
So it should pop up on the slightly above average Twitter.
Seems as though it's live.
Looks to be.
How do I share this? Okay.
Is it all right if I tag you?
Yeah, I'm
All right.
trying to share it myself on Twitter. I don't even know what to say to this.
I just said we're live with I am Expel.
For episode 65.
We'll see how this goes. All right, cool. How do I see the chat?
You got to click on the click on it.
It's on the right. Yeah. Okay, I've got it pulled up.
Well, no, in Riverside it doesn't.
No. I was talking about Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Cool.
Yeah, I got it pulled up on Twitter.
Okay.
I got the chat directly beside y'all so that I can just read it.
We don't live we look at it and sometimes we'll address it, but we normally just continue doing our thing.
Yeah, we don't usually directly interact unless there's a pressing need for it. Just as probably should talk about that pre-show, but it is what it is.
Well, it's pulled up now.
Amateur hour over here.
Me, the streamer, trying to look at stuff. Let me see the chat. I'm trying to respond to people.
All right, I'm going to send it, and then we're off to the races.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome everybody to episode 65 of the Slightly Above Average Gaming Podcast. I am j007tv, joined as always by my co-host subone KD, and today we have a very special guest. You guys may know him from YouTube, Twitter, any other social media. I am Expel. What's going on, gentlemen?
What up, big man?
What's going on, man?
We're good.
Hopefully you guys are having a good lead into the holidays. It's been all Christmas all the time over here. Spent the entire day yesterday after the kids got out of school doing the school Christmas plays and stuff. So my oldest got to dress up as a hippopotamus in one of those big inflatable things and dance across the stage in front of the whole school, and like parents, so all of 300 people. But
Nice.
She lives for that stuff. But yeah, so that's been our world, and then this weekend is just literally going to be just scrubbing baseboards, getting ready for Christmas. Yeah. How about you guys?
That's the beating of people coming to your house, dude. And you ever notice how you clean it more than you normally would? You dial in on all the little things like the baseboards.
Mm-hmm.
That no one's ever going to notice.
Yeah, no one's ever going to notice, but you notice it. So you got to, that's why it's I like hosting, but I hate it at the same time, because when I do, that means I got to spend a whole day, cleaning or supervising my kids cleaning and making sure they're doing shit right.
Yep.
I love the supervision there. You're just you can do it. No.
Yeah.
Scrape the staircase. Make sure you get the dog hairs off. We should be good here. Take the comb. We should be nice.
Yeah, like a county worker, I just kind of stand there with my shovel or my broom.
You got the stop and go sign. It's no, and you're good. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, well, Expel, thank you so much for hopping on with us, man. We really appreciate it. Both of us have been very excited to, visit with you. I guess you followed Expel for a very long time, right?
Yeah. So I've told this story before on previous episodes, but basically I went from being a complete noob to a part-time noob at Warzone. Partially because of Expel, so there's three creators that I've gone through and said these guys have been the most impactful in me learning from how to read the mini map to get through the game. It was Savage, it was Expel, and it was Iceman Isaac, and so those three guys were huge influence in my desire to get into Warzone more. So followed Expel and eventually hit a post that did pretty well off of one of Expel's tweets, and we got to know each other a little bit more over that, and had some good experiences, and then now I've got the chance to bring him on and grill him on his life choices.
I think that's probably the best thing to do, is just grill me on my life choices. I'll take that. Somebody has to at this point. I need accountability.
Yeah. Well, I was watching some of your videos. We were talking before you came on. I watched a couple of your shorts from, it looked like there was one for Verdansk that you killed a guy, the bounty, where you killed him with the car. You threw a thermite and it hit the car. You went in the building. I guess he came around and it blew up on him or something like that.
I don't even remember half of these videos. I don't know if you know this. I have 2,000 videos on my main channel, 900 on my second channel.
Jeez, oh Pete, that's
Yeah.
How long have you been doing this?
I started with a channel called XX6 Scopes in 2010, I think. It was Black Ops 1. I used to make little random tomahawk, cross-mac tomahawk montages, because we had the theater mode back then.
Yep.
And then that channel, I didn't know about copyright, so I was like putting like click, click, boom, and stuff like that on the videos and stuff. So yeah, that was not something that I could continue doing. And then I made another channel called Psycho Gaming HD. That one got demonetized for whatever reason. I think somebody had botted my account. I don't know. It was the Wild West back in the day, and there was no way for YouTube to differentiate, but the monetization system could. So whoever botted my account actually basically made it where I couldn't make money from that page. So I ended up making multiple different accounts, finally settled on Expel. So about 14 years, almost 15. No, right at 14, because it was 2010, the end of it, leading into Black Ops 1. So very long time since I was like 12. I was 12 years old. And then my dad eventually got me an HD PVR for Christmas, and that's how I really like locked in.
Nice. Yeah, I think when I was 12, I was still on the N64, so a little bit more difficult to make clips off of that.
We had projectors like with the tape.
Yeah,
that's what we had when I was fucking 12.
we had to fly our clips to each other, right? You put it on a VHS and attach it to a pigeon, and they would fly it.
Dude, I actually remember trying to record like an N64 by plugging it into a VHS player and then plugging the VHS player into the TV. So you could do that and then you'd like record it with the VHS.
Yes.
But it never worked because we always did it wrong. We just did not understand it. And we always thought it was really cool, but never found the way around it to like showcase us playing Super Mario 64 or Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time? Someone's gonna get mad, I'm sure. But
we did that for Perfect Dark when I was a kid with the neighbor, like the neighbor friends, and we'd play it, and then we'd have like, the tapes were what, like you get like 2 hours on them or something like that, and it was like, now what? Do we watch it back? Like there was nothing to do. There was no YouTube. There was nothing to do with it. It
you
just
recorded over like your parents' wedding, and they're like,
absolutely right.
What?
And it's like, oh, why did someone take the tab out of the tape? And now I gotta go find the Scotch tape and tape over it so we can record over this crap. Nobody wants to watch these people get married.
I don't miss this. I preferred burning DVDs. We'll take us to that point, and I'll be happy. But VHS was way too complicated.
How about the beta?
The beta? Wait, what?
Yeah, there were two formats of video cassettes.
Nobody wanted Betamax. That thing cost like $1,000.
It did, but it was a legit format. There was VHS. You could go to the video store and get VHS, or you could get a Betamax, like if you had a Betamax player.
We were poor. I don't know.
Man would say.
I definitely didn't have something for like $1,000. I can tell you that up front. I don't know how long we had our VHS player, to be quite honest. I think we got that right at the end of it.
Yeah.
Did get a DVD player pretty quick though. I think that one was. Yeah, I remember when my dad. We were in Ingles grocery store, and he tried to tell me the difference between widescreen and like regular format, and he was like, "No, we got to start doing widescreen now." And I was like, "I don't know what that means." He was like, "It's like wider," and I was like, "Okay."
And then you're
okay,
like,
Dad.
Why are there black bars? Like I don't.
Yeah.
Why fill the TV? What are we doing?
Yeah. I think that's actually what like annoyed me was the black bars, but in reality, I guess it's like changing your FOV slider and using like an ultra wide monitor now.
Yep.
There's 12-year-old kids that are very confused at all the things that we're saying.
Like, I don't understand. What are you talking about? You just plug your monitor in your TV. Like, what do you mean black bars?
And it works.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Let me use the RCA plugs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was the only person in my house that knew how to plug anything in because my dad was very focused on like tech growing up. Like he bought a computer very early, and and so he taught me how to do it. But I grew up in a split household, so I went to my mom's one week and my dad's the other week. But I was the only person at my mom's house. She had like 2 other kids. No one knew how to plug anything in, so I was always the like little tech kid. And now I couldn't tell you anything. Sadly, everything's advanced far beyond my understanding.
Isn't it interesting just how much tech you have to have a decent stream, even just a decent stream or podcast? I mean,
I think we're going lower now.
Jealous of your setup.
I think we're actually kind of going backwards. I think Elgato's got like so many products that have made it very easy. And this is not me like being like I'm sponsored, but like literally like all like half of my stuff is Elgato, and now you can just like get one thing and it connects to another thing, and you're good. Like that's pretty much it. Like it'll be like a Stream Deck, and it'll be like an XLR jack. So you grab a microphone, headphones, you got that thing, you're good to go. It does the whole thing, and you can plug it into the Wave software or whatever.
Is that what you're using? So you're using
No.
that for like your mixer, or do you have a mixing board?
No. This is just like if I was to tell people what to get for streaming, I would say that. I have a Go XLR. I have a very complicated setup with the Go XLR. The Go XLR has so many inputs on the back, and I still need more. So I will like plug from one PC directly to the other to get the thing that I want. Like my voice chat is separate, like for the game, and my game is separate. My like, let me see. I actually have Discord, game audio, game chat audio, my microphone, music, and my system audio. Music and system audio fall under the same thing. And then I have like a master track. So I always, when I go through it, have like split stuff for my content. But yeah, I think that you can go super complicated, but I think now with like 4090 and even the 5090 coming out now, you don't need to go crazy because you can do everything on a one PC setup these days. I think we're literally like finally taking the double PC setup and the like 87 different things you need and going the exact opposite way and just kind of condensing it, which feels really nice because I'm very tired of having to have two PCs. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yes, me
it's
too.
hot. It's freaking hot in here, bro. Like, I don't know what to say. It's so hot.
That's funny. So like here, so where in my office, I am, I built this in our garage. So I'm like, this morning it was 43 when I woke up, and I just installed this heater last night at like 9 o'clock, and it's hanging on by a thread. But like for me, I actually can't do a single PC if I want to stream and play because my internet doesn't have the bandwidth. I have to have two ISPs in order to do both simultaneously, which causes its own problems. But like, yeah, for me, I'm one of those like people that like, I have an idea of how I want things to work in my head. And then I look at like the hardware available and it's like, there's nothing easy about how I want to do things. It's never that way. It's always like, oh, you want to do a stream. So for me, I stream on PC, but I also play stuff on Xbox, and I want both of those to be part of the experience. So it's like, well, I need a roadcaster because I need to have the inputs that can handle it all, and I don't want to deal with standard cables, and I want digital everything. And then I just really hope my wife looks stuff up if I die when she sells all this crap.
Yeah, dude. I'm lucky. My fiance Brooke, like she is a Facebook Marketplace dealer. I swear to God, she is making that money on Facebook Marketplace. We have like so much stuff that I've like bought and don't use anymore. And she has taken the liberty to just start selling things. And she's like, "Do you want the money for this?" And I was like, "I don't know. Do I? Do you want the money?" I like at this point, it's gonna be our money and like next year. So do whatever you want with the money. If you think it goes here, do that. But yeah, no, I think the entry point for content creation and streaming is very low. But whenever it comes to production, very different thing. Like if you want a nice setup and you want things to look good, you have to get like a DSLR camera or a mirrorless camera now, I guess. You have to get like two PCs. You have to have this big old Stream Deck Plus or whatever it's called, like the mass. I have the 32 one and I still end up running out of buttons, which is kind of crazy. And then I have a Go XLR. I've got a massive desk to fit all this stuff, and then way too much stuff going on. I mean, at some point, I think there was like 30 grand spent on all the stuff that I had gotten. And obviously some of it like phases out. I think now my setup's much cheaper, but it's just so crazy that you can start here and you can just get streaming. And then as you work your way up, you end up needing so much more stuff just to make it like nicer and more enjoyable for the average viewer.
I think that's to me, that's one of the things I enjoy about it is the endless tinkering, right? Like if I have a hobby where I'm like, I'm just, all right, I have everything I need now. I don't need anything. It's like, okay, that it doesn't.
I'm bored.
Yeah, I'm bored.
Yeah.
Like,
let me change it. I just said this the other day. I was in a Discord chat and I was like, you know what? I've been looking back at my old setups. Maybe I need a little purple and some blue over here. Like maybe I need to get some like another like L-shaped desk. Brooke's cringing in her chair if she's watching right now. But yeah, I'm definitely an endless tinkerer. I've always changed my setup and I've never been like so proud of it that I'm like, I need to do a setup video. Yeah. I just randomly will put it in a video of me like, this is an over camera view or an over shoulder view of my setup so that you can see I'm not cheating type of video. Like that's the only time I ever show it. And people are like, dang, why didn't you do a setup tour? And I'm like, I mean, I just don't like it as much. By the time you're done with it,
you're changing something.
No, exactly. I'm like, I don't think I'm there yet. This is actually the longest time I've spent without changing a setup. And I think I got pretty lucky because the house that we're renting now, we walked in and we were like, oh, the walls are already like dark gray in here. So I don't have to
Perfect.
paint anything. And then the room that like Brooke streams out of was already dark green. So she didn't have to paint anything. So we both kind of lucked out and just had perfect rooms for us.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very nice change that didn't cause a lot of issues. Obviously, you can see, I don't know, I'm going to unfocus my camera. I don't know if they'll be able to see it, but I always make sure that like I cable manage like a motherfudger. You can literally see like on the ground and on the side that I always go out of my way to cable manage everything pretty much perfectly. And that's been my like tinkering. I just ordered a bunch of cables for Brooke to do the exact same stuff to her.
Sub, is your cable management still like the Christmas light setup at the Griswold's house where he's got like all the like 35 little outlet things plugged into one, or did you get that squared away yet?
Yes and no. Behind the camera, things are. I'm still tinkering. I haven't settled in where I want. I haven't confirmed that I want everything, and so I'm like, it's like some stuff is cable managed, like my microphone setup, like that's cable managed, but like I'm not 100% sold. I'm keeping my PCs where they are and stuff like that, so that's a little off kilter. But behind me, I built the thing, so I just installed outlets wherever I wanted, so I don't have wires running places they should run.
That's fair.
So.
That's the goal, though. Get a house, build it out how you want.
It looks nice for everybody else. I don't get to look at all that stuff, but
that's kind of the funny thing about being a streamer is like you'll always make sure that the exact shot is perfect, and then outside of that shot, no one has to know. They don't know. They don't know how bad it looks, but behind, you can see perfectly how nice and neat my whole office is, but it's not.
Well, it's funny. So before I built this, I was doing I had my setup was a cap. Those old TV cabinets where you had like for like the 32-inch tube TV, and it was a big oak cabinet, and you could close it. Right? So
that's where entertainment centers came from, right?
Yeah. I picked one of those up, and I painted the whole thing black, and then I had these big foam panels. So I built myself a background, like a black background, and then ran threw a bunch of crap in there and some lights. And then I pinned a bed sheet from the top of that across so that it would diffuse the light overhead from the fluorescence in the garage.
Mm-hmm.
Inside, it actually looked pretty nice. You can see it in my older videos. It was a black background with with some lights and all the knickknacks that I have behind me kind of scattered about. From the outside, it looked like a hobo shed. And it was like a homeless encampment in my garage, and my wife was like embarrassed to let anybody see it.
But once they walked all the way in, maybe it was kind of cool, though. No? Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was so nice.
If you sat in front of the camera and you looked just at what the camera showed, it looked great.
If you walked up and kind of squinted your eyes at it, it was perfectly fine. It just looked like a little room. But then you open your eyes and you see the whole picture and you're like, well, maybe not.
Dude, I started streaming from my living room. I would sit on an ottoman. I would get a bar stool to read chat with my work tablet. Then I would have my laptop in front of me to run everything from an Xbox also. And then another stool to have my camera mounted on. And then we moved me into here. It was an office nook. So this arch back here was open and everything. And I guess my wife got tired of hearing me tell kids to get fucked all the time. So the idea was to close this in. So we closed this in, built a desk in here and everything. And so I'm in here and I've got the foam pads on the door and everything. But it's hot as shit in here too, because we didn't put a return vent. We moved the air conditioning vent, but we didn't put a return vent. So there's not really a lot of air circulating.
That's what you need, though. That's the worst part is that actually I would probably vent it the opposite direction and just do a return vent if I was to do something like that, because it'll naturally get stuff in. It looks like your door's open, so unless that's something else. Is that a closet?
Yeah, it is. It's open because nobody's home right now. But
okay.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm in here, but I do have a tower fan to kind of keep it a little bit cooler, and I don't play it during the podcast just because I don't like all the little creaks and background noises and stuff like that sometimes like the mic will pick up. So I just keep it off and sweat while we do what we do.
I think not for nothing, but I think if you got like a dynamic microphone, it probably cuts out a lot of that. And then just making sure you have a good arm, because I can tell your arm, I think is it's not, if that's not a Rode arm.
It's not. I'm gonna get one.
Yeah, then I think that's like the $12 to $15 one on Amazon, and those things squeak like a motherfudger, dude. They are so very creaky, and I think that would probably fix a lot of the problems, actually.
This mic actually Subone sent me a couple weeks ago. I was using the Wave 3. I
Yeah,
had that.
it picks up
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. And then for Christmas I'm going to be getting the Rodecaster 2. So I'm about to be set, bro.
Yeah, you should be good to go after that. I think, I mean, obviously a lot of it comes down to EQ and things of that nature. But aside from that, I mean, I have like the overhead fan on. I have a whole ass air conditioner back there that I've got going because obviously it gets hot in here with 2 PCs and 4090s and all that malarkey. But a lot of it really is just the kind of microphone that you get.
Yeah.
Not
But,
that I know a lot about audio, but I'm just saying, like, I know that I was like, all right, why do I need a Shure? Why does everybody have it? It's because it cuts out everything in the background and really focuses on your voice.
Well, I was in a cover band for probably 5 or 8 years or so, and we used the Shure 58s, like the XLR Shure 58s, and you know, it's a good quality product from a mic standpoint. And the great thing is I have Subone who, in a previous life, he ran sound and some other things, right, for your church. So he's very knowledgeable when it comes to those kind of things. So that's a resource I'm definitely going to be tapping when I'm trying to set all this shit up again.
That's probably the best thing to do. Get other people behind you when you do stuff like that.
It's great because then you have someone to blame when it doesn't work.
That also is the best thing to do. That's actually why I run everything by Brooke before I do it. She's gonna beat my ass for that line.
Let's kind of get into a little bit of your content journey. Like, how did you get your start?
So I actually watched like all the montages and stuff back in the original Modern Warfare, like Call of Duty 4. I watched a bunch of those, and then I really got into like watching machinima, like red versus blue type stuff. I really just liked these funny videos. And so I kind of just wanted to step my foot into it. And my dad, like, I mean, I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast, but my dad, again, was like a very like tech-based guy. So whenever I was 7, he built me a computer with his tax returns. He built him a computer that was obviously slightly better, and then me a computer so that I can kind of learn to use the technology. He like got Photoshop for me and all this other stuff. So I spent a lot of time like learning all this stuff, and I was always in the space. I remember in 4th grade, we went to Buck Stove, which is like one of the like largest, I mean, like, what do they call it? The thing that you have at your house, like the fireplace, like biggest fireplace distributor in America. And my dad did the graphics design for the website. He built the website out.
Oh, nice.
Everybody else went and they saw the welders and they were like, that's what I want to do. And when we got back to the school, I remember everybody wrote down like, what do you want? What would you want to do at Buck Stove? And I was the only person in the entire grade that said I wanted to be in an office being a graphics designer. Everybody else was like, I loved the welding. That was so cool. I didn't give a damn. Didn't matter to me. I just like was always into like technology. So whenever I was introduced to Call of Duty 4 and I started watching videos on that, and I always thought it was fun. I like loved watching these videos. So once it came to like Black Ops 1, I realized they had this clipping function on the PS3, and you could take that clip, put it on a USB, and then plug it into your computer, and it would transfer all of this stuff to your computer. So that's what I do for the longest time. I'd take that, I'd move the clip over to my computer, and then I'd pull out Windows Movie Maker, and I just chop everything together and put a song with it. Obviously that didn't work out, but then, you know, it slowly progressed over and over and over until I was making Call of Duty videos in Black Ops 3, and that's kind of where I started finding my place. I was still in high school, but I really wanted to take it seriously. I was, you know, working a job like 30 hours a week at old Mickey D's or Pizza Hut, and I was like super focused in. So I would wake up early at like 5 a.m. to record my videos. Then I'd go to school. At school, I had a laptop that my dad like helped me purchase through getting a loan so that I could buy it off of Amazon. That laptop immediately died the second I paid it off entirely, which is crazy.
As they do.
Yeah, this is why I never bought another laptop for like stuff like that. But I was like doing all this stuff to make sure that I was getting it together. And then eventually, ironically, I made like a couple of Minecraft Pokemon videos, like Minecraft Pixelmon videos, and those really picked up. So I like locked in there, but I didn't know how to do like ads and stuff. So I never put mid-rolls on the video. So there was a month one time where I made $1,000, but it had 0 mid-rolls. And like all my videos did, they were 30 to 40 minutes long of me playing this Minecraft Pixelmon. They'd get 50, 60, 100,000 views. And none of them are on my channel anymore. Just for the record, I had to remove it because the audience that came from that is gross. But eventually that picked up, and then I just kind of gave up on it. And my dad mentioned, because I just started playing Fortnite in like 2017 when it came out. And my dad mentioned, hey, if you like battle royales, Call of Duty's coming out with a battle royale. So I want to say thanks, Dad, for getting me into Blackout. And then during Blackout, I started making videos again. Those videos did pretty well. And there was this guy named I'm Carbon. We are not friends anymore, but he mentioned, hey, the way that I was able to go full time was by streaming. So I didn't have great internet at the time, but I had good enough internet. So I ended up streaming Blackout, and people would give me challenges and stuff like that. And eventually I made enough money from my like community. I mean, it was like maybe 6 people realistically. My rent was very cheap. We lived in a very like poor town, so everything was not inflated like everywhere else. So I was able to make rent and have money left over and stuff like that. So I decided in May of 2019 I'd go full time, and since then I've just been. I mean, I was streaming, but now I don't stream anymore. I just make content and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's great. Tell me about like the streaming side of it. Like, so for me, I stream. Jay streams quite a bit. Pretty much like what 3-4 days a week minimum. I stream sometimes, but it's like it's such a different mindset than like content creation or just playing the game. Like, what goes into it, like from a mental standpoint, back when you were streaming? Like, how does it differ than now?
I think I was always a content first kind of person. I grew up making the YouTube videos, so that was always my approach to streaming. I kind of got lost in it over the past couple of years, and that's why I like cold turkey stopped. But I would always hop online, and my goal was to get a video for YouTube. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was a little different than people that just like hop on and they're playing the game and chatting. I was never like that. There was never a day where I just did that. My goal was get content for YouTube. So I'd hop online and, we'd have chat rolling and stuff like that. We'd get challenges. I'd make video on the challenges. I'd just make videos. So my mindset was always that, but I was just never a part of that group of people that would just hop on and stream up until recently. And I think that just gave me the most negative mindset for it. Cause I mentioned this before the stream to j007tv. What is your name? Like, what can I call you? Just Jay?
Call me Jay.
Okay. Yeah. I mentioned this to Jay beforehand, but I just don't really like people feeling the need to give me money. I fully understand the idea that people like to give creators money as if it were a Netflix subscription because they watch me more. But I just don't like the idea of me having to, 1, hope that someone's going to give me money, and 2, that people feel the need to give me money. I was a server before I did all this. Like I worked at Pizza Hut, and then I worked at multiple other restaurants. I also worked at a factory and did construction for a singular day. But yeah, that was not for me. That was crazy. It wasn't my fault. It was more like the guy that they set up with me didn't want to do a thing the whole day. So I was like, I'm not doing that again. But whenever, I was really focused on trying to make money from this, I remember my first year during Blackout, I made more money than I've ever seen in my life. It was the most stressed I've ever been in my entire life. And then I was like, all right, we need to make sure that I'm making money on content. So that's what ended up happening during Verdansk, because I got pretty lucky. Obviously, my stuff blew up during COVID. I did make strategic moves to make sure that I was making the correct content for that. I never liked making money from streaming. I don't like the idea of people having to give me money. So I ended up kind of not doing that anymore recently, because I don't like people having to give me money or feel the need to give me money. And that ended up being a point where I reached recently where I was making the most money off of streaming, and I didn't like that because I wasn't putting out enough content. If you look at my channel, there's multiple spurts where I just literally didn't upload. The first time, I would like to blame Dreamstrike. Buddy, this man's videos were so freaking good. I remember it was like January of Caldera. Mm-hmm. I saw his video and I was like, so my videos suck. And it just it killed my mental, and I wasn't streaming. I'd stopped streaming at that point. I stopped posting videos. Luckily I had a Facebook contract that I just posted 20 random videos over there, and I'd make a specific set amount of money. So that kind of carried myself and my team at the time. But I don't know. I feel like streaming is just one of those things where depending on where your original mindset is when you go into it, if you're content focused, you'll always be content focused. But if you stream because you like streaming, you still need to find a way to make it content focused, because if you don't, you're hoping for people to pay you, or you're not giving people the value that they need to actually watch you long term. And I think that at some point I kind of lost that value, which is why I've switched away from it.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question there. I hope that I did.
No, it was great. I'm laughing because the whole, did construction for a day is like the quintessential experience that I've had with like when I've done a variety of gigs that have been construction related and somehow and there's always that like attitude from somebody of like, I don't want to be here, so I'm just gonna like collect my paycheck, and everybody who's like relies on me is gonna suffer.
Yeah.
And
that's exactly what it was for me. Is the guy that they put me with. I was 18 years old. I at the time was very fit, and I was working my ass off. I remember a very clear moment at the end of the day where he was like, "Look, if we just lay here and we pretend like we're doing something, then we can just end right here." And I was like, "What's the point? Like, what is the point?" And then the place that we were at, it was like 105 degrees outside. I'm not saying this is like the hardest job. I want to be very clear. Like for me, that was not like, I know people work harder, but like being there is 105 degrees. They said we wouldn't have to lift more than a specific amount, which obviously is a lie, but we were lifting things that were like 400, 500 pounds at any given time throughout the day. We didn't get enough water breaks. It was very hot. I was boiling out there. When I got off work, my fingers were locked like this because I hadn't hydrated enough. I literally couldn't unlock my fingers. And I just started like chugging water to get it through. I did not do construction for more than a singular day because I had no help the entire day. And I was like, I'm not going back to that. That makes no sense. So I just got a different job.
So literally like my dive into content as more of a serious venture came from working a job kind of similar to that. So I worked for a company that did was a water technology company, and I was hired as a project manager. And I was hired specifically because I understand construction. So I've remodeled 3 houses that, because I lived in them, right? And we live on a ranch.
I'll hire you out
in
a couple of years.
Yeah, okay. So I'm always like, so I know my way around everything, right? Like, electrical, framing, whatever, plumbing. I know how to get from point A to point B on that stuff. And so they hired me, and they were specifically like, oh, we're going to hire you for a project management role, and you're going to oversee installation of, our real-time projects. I'm like, cool, I can do that. And what they actually wanted me to do was actually do the work. So they hired me to oversee this construction system, and then they fired all the workers and still expect the projects to be done on time. And, it was an hour, 40-minute commute each way to do this job. And they were just like absolutely dicking around with me. And I'm like, literally it was a Friday. I had a conversation with Friday, I guess 2 years ago, probably this week. My boss comes in and goes, all right, we've authorized overtime for you. You can work 6 days a week at up to 10 hours per day from the second week of December through the new year, because we got to get this project out on time, and we're behind on it because we don't give you the resources you need. So we'll just let you work twice as much. And they said, and you're so lucky that your day off actually lands on Christmas, so you don't have to come in. And I looked at him and I'm like, I have an hour and 40-minute commute to get here and get home. And he goes, oh, well, there's a couch here and we have a shower.
Oh my God.
And that I went home and I told my wife that, and she's like, no. And I went, no. And so I sent him a notice saying, I'm taking my last floating holiday on Monday. And by the way, Monday is my last day.
Nice.
So I got paid for the floating holiday that I would have lost, and then I just was like, get me out of that.
Yeah, these freaking companies, man. I feel like everything comes down to greed, and it's so gross. And no respect for the little guy.
No, and it's like, they only care about their bottom line. It was stories about that company. It was actually it supplanted one of the tech companies I worked for as the worst company I've ever worked for. And that took 15 years to do. So that was a milestone on their part. But it was like my wife and I, we talked about it. And it's like, well, take a go at doing content, see if you can make some money at it. And I've been able to make some money at it, but I've spent it all on gear. So
yeah, that tends to be, that's the issue. Like we're still trying to make money on, like, we do like a little vlog, and every time we go on like a cruise ship, we try and record it. But I spent a lot of money on like the camera gear, and there's no way we make that back. There's no possible way that we make that back. I bought like the Sony A1. I got it used. It was Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
But I also bought it from a guy who like does productions here. So I knew that it would be like very good. I went through his page and I was like, okay, I know this guy's going to take care of it. But that doesn't mean the camera wasn't $6,000. So I bought that. I bought multiple lenses. And now she's like, look, we need to make some money on this. No more buying stuff ever. So I'm trying to lock in a little bit there, maybe
Yeah.
make a little money on it, but realistically, it's never going to happen because there's like, we don't really know what we're doing on that side of things. It's kind of just like a memory bank for me. It's
Sure.
kind of the way that I look at it.
Just start filming yourself like walking up, acting like you're going to hit people like some of them morons over on
Jeez.
TikTok. And
I'm all right. I don't think that
He lives in Texas, dude. It's gonna get, you know,
I'm gonna get shot.
work out.
Yeah, that seems like a bad idea. Yeah.
But you know, so I remember that you actually took a break from social media and kind of like and you know, talked about taking a break from like Warzone content in general during kind of like, I think late Warzone 2, and you know, I remember you talking about starting this blog and, you know, and kind of doing some IRL content, you know, so how has that been like? Has that been like a relief from you, like kind of a, you know, I mean, aside from the camera, but
no, man, it turned our vacations into trips, work trips is what it did. And it's like, I think a lot of people that have gotten into content creation may feel the exact same way if they're actually working towards content creation. Like, when you start making videos on games, you lose your passion for gaming. And I'm finding that a little bit now. Frankly, don't care anymore. But I just, like, at the end of the day, I have to treat it like a job, and then I just enjoy like the time that I'm actually having fun on the game. Plus, being on controller makes a big difference because it's free. But just like that, you kind of have to put together if you want something to be good and not just be absolute bullshit, you have to think about it. You have to write a list down of things that you need. You have to get B-roll. You have to focus on like the way that you're going to communicate to the camera. And it has caused some serious arguments between Brooke and I because we both have a different vision for what we want. So as much as I like for that to be like my career path, and I know how to communicate with like sponsors and stuff like that. So if we could make videos on like these cruise ships and communicate with them, the issue is you have to get the views first. And to get the views, you have to get the video down pat. And to get the video down pat, you have to do all this other stuff. So it was not less stressful at any point, really. The goal really was to do that, but also to make these TikTok UGC videos. And TikTok obviously is getting banned soon in the US. But I kind of saw the writing in the wall. I didn't like the way a lot of and TikTok UGC, if you don't know what it is basically you make videos for companies, and these companies use it to advertise on like platforms with like vertical video. So it might be like you're making a Last War Survival like mobile game ad. You might be making a betting ad, which I refuse to do anything that was gambling. That's just who I am. Or, you know, maybe like a workout app or whatever the hell it was. I think I made one for a local like Hat Creek restaurant, which was cool. But, you know, there was times where I'd make thousands of dollars on that, and then sometimes I didn't. And the issue is that with this UGC content, and the reason that I realized I need to just make my YouTube videos and just stick to what the hell I'm doing, is because when you make this UGC content, you have to go in and there's these app drops, like these, like, I don't even know what to say. Like, you try and grab your ability to make these videos. So you'll hop in at 8:00 p.m. and everybody, like 40 people will be in one call. And these 40 people are a small percentage of the people that are actually getting these apps. So you'll go in and you'll try and get these apps. But the issue is everybody else is doing it. And everybody else, no offense, makes some pretty shit content. So these companies will stop advertising because they get a video that's god awful. And it's not like a video that's god awful, but also gets a lot of clicks. It's like literally people just do the worst things. And it's no offense to these people. It's just like a lot of people hopped in because they saw dollar signs and they didn't actually know how to do advertisements or make content or learn or do anything like that. Some people do really good jobs. I don't know if you know Josh Barracks, but this dude is incredible at it. Like, there's so many people that are so good at what they do, and then so many people that take up spots, either don't make the videos or make terrible videos. So you lose out on the opportunity to make money when you could be the one to make money. And I'm not saying I knew the most about it, but it really was like one of those situations where it's like the barrier to entry is very low for anyone to do it. And at the time you could like purchase accounts and stuff like that to get into it. So I just at some point was like, all right, I need to just lock in on main channel content and my Expel Plus content and stuff like that. And that's how I transitioned to trying to do that. And we were like, this could be good. Like, maybe we do that. And turns out that was not the play. So it did not go well. It overall, I jumped way too many times, and now that's why I've kind of like shifted my mindset and why I'm just doing content, not streaming, not wasting time on streaming. Because again,
Makes sense.
wasn't hugely worth it in my opinion.
How is working with Brooke? Because so my wife is a content creator on Instagram. She's got like K or something followers, and her vision for things and my vision for things, and this has been, we did, we've done content in one form or another for almost 15 years. Like we did a cooking blog, we did all kinds of stuff. Back when blogs were a thing. Remember those? And the big battle between us is her vision and my ability to execute her vision, because my vision is different than how she sees the world, which, has taken me as a married man a long time to realize that she's just better at this stuff. So I just need to shut up and do what she says.
That's facts.
It's been a thing. And so it's like, with her Instagram, it's like, aside from like helping her learn fundamentals of editing and stuff, it's like I've been completely hands off, which is why she has 20,000 followers and I have 17 or something. But it's, for us, it's been a big challenge. But you and Brooke have been doing stuff kind of off and on together. You've done a few different things. You've done the IRL channel. Like, how's that relationship been?
One, she's much smarter than I am by like such,
they always are,
like an exponential number. It's insane. Like, swear to God, that is the reason I am with her, is because she has the work ethic. She is very smart, like very, very intelligent, will kick my ass every single time. Anytime we have an argument, it is very difficult for those arguments because I cannot win. There's no way around it. She is way too freaking smart and she will pound that shit in. But she's also very smart whenever it comes to content, because even though like this isn't her full-time job, like that's not what she does. She like works for a large company and that's her day job, and then she comes home and she'll like stream on Thursdays and Sundays, and then she wants to do these vlogs and stuff. A lot of it, like I said, is like more of a memory bank, but she has a specific vision. I have a specific vision. The issue is I am always production. I like the production side. I like making things look very pretty. I like making sure things are perfect, and I am absolutely a perfectionist. She says clip that shit together and post it, because otherwise we're not putting it out in the first place. And we're getting there. We had some issues with like microphones and stuff like that for the vlog, and we just kept running into these issues over and over and over, to the point where I was like, all right, we're getting lapel mics. I'm putting it under our shirts every time we have something important to ensure that we have like double mic'd up. And then I bought another mic for the top of the camera, because the microphone that I had was like a 3mm jack microphone, and that's not natural for the Sony cameras. So I got the like $300 whatever the hell it is. It plugs into the digital stuff. Yeah, the hot shoe one. And that one's much nicer. I got all the audio. I didn't like, whenever we made our last video, it worked. It just worked. So that was really nice. But working with her is really fun because she enjoys the process. I just get stressed because we both have a different vision, and I'm a little bit more complicated for like the videos that we make. And then she's like, just put it together. You can do it. Don't worry about the music. You're doing too much. Like, I don't even want music anymore. Just cut it out. Like, you don't need it, Corbin. Like, you don't need it. You're good. So it's just different visions. We tend to clash quite a bit. But at the end of the day, again, like, we both want kind of the same thing. It's just a different way of getting there. And she wants it to be more like personal. I kind of want it to be beautiful, because I feel like when you look back at your memories, you kind of have this vision of it. You always look at stuff with rose tinted glasses. And I want it to look like that rose tinted glass vision that I'm going to, like how we all look at Verdansk, like that exact way, where it's like Verdansk really wasn't all that great if you remember it, but God Almighty, it looks so good whenever you look back at it. So that's kind of how I wanted to like build our videos out, but her vision's slightly different.
Understandable. But speaking of Verdansk, so I actually think Verdansk is one of the better map. I think it's actually a great map for a lot of the reasons we all called it faulty. Like, the buildings, I've never wanted every building to be the freaking same until we get to Urzikstan, where every building is flipping different and has 27 different fake doors and windows that I can't get out of.
My God.
But so like, as I mentioned at the top of the episode, I came across, I found you through trying to learn how to navigate Verdansk, and your boot camp series. And I don't know if you called it boot camp at that time, or if it was just content you were making.
If you watched it early, it was just tips.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of tips, and so I was working at I'd what was supposed to be like an intermediate job when I kind of switched out of real estate and went and moved on to something else. We were going to move out of state. So it was like, I needed something on the resume that transferred. So I was managing the facilities at this church, and, so I'd be there, and then COVID happened. Right. So it was like me in a, 15,000 square foot building by myself for 8 to 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, right? Doing stuff. And so I would just like literally put you up on the big screens.
Mm-hmm.
And so just have you kind of doing content while I was doing work. And so that was kind of my introduction to you. And tell me about like kind of how you dove into that aspect of it.
How I dove into like the tips and tricks and stuff like that.
Like, go from like, montages to tips and tricks that actually, work.
It's actually really funny. The way that I got into it, I think was just I watched a lot of people back in the day, like T Martin and not for nothing, Ali A. I watched a lot of people that did tips and tricks and stuff like that back in the day. And when I was doing Black Ops 3, I think I did some tips videos, but I was never really good at it. And then when Black Ops 4 came out with Blackout, I just made very good decisions while I was playing. For some reason, the way that my brain works is it's like I fire off these things in my head very quickly. And there's a lot of people that do this as well. This is how people become like pro players. Obviously, I don't have the dexterity for it. That's the issue. Is my brain works fast, my hands don't. So I was just like always thinking ahead, like 2 steps, and I would make quick decisions that made the most sense. And I had a lot of people who just ask me about it. In fact, the way I got into it was funny enough called Blackout Boot Camp. This is before Iceman Isaac jumped into Call of Duty. Blackout Boot Camp. And I would hop in and I'd just try and give like tips, and people just kept asking. They were like, hey, you're not really giving as many tips as I'd like. So eventually I remember watching like a Benny Central video on Verdansk, and long before Iceman Isaac like blew up with these Academy videos, I was doing these other videos that I'm sure that's what you were watching, with like the paint and then text over it and then a character on the side. And I would just make those videos because it was specifically what people had asked for during Blackout. And I was like, I wonder if people need these tips. So I made a couple of them. I remember one was like 6 tips to improve in solos. And I had gone from getting 2,000 to 4,000 views a video. That video got 40,000 views. And I was like, now wait a damn minute. What if, and hear me out, what if I just did that again? So I did it again. And I did a very similar video where I like kind of laid out the tips, like do this. And then I'd showcase like what I'm talking about, do this, showcase what I'm talking about. And I do that over and over and over until I could kind of just like spectate my own gameplay and pause it, showcase it, and keep going. And then it kind of just blew up is what it was. That blew up, and then spectating blew up because while I was spectating, I would either make fun of the goofy decisions that people would make, which I'm much nicer now. I think people get very upset with me for my spectating videos because sometimes like I kind of laugh at the person's expense. But back in the day, I was a hateful asshole whenever it came to spectating videos. People are like, you've changed. And I was like, buddy, I've changed for the better. You got to watch those old videos. I was mean. But yeah, so a lot of it is just like I'm always just like someone that's wanted to improve. I remember one thing that stuck with me growing up was I think it was my junior year. I quit football my junior year because I was really wanting to pursue Call of Duty content. But this is before Minecraft, ironically. But I quit football. But one thing that the coach always said was don't be complacent. And it just every single time, we were not winning, like at all. We were not winning. And he kept saying over and over, we'd lose a game. Hey, we're being complacent. Don't be complacent. We got to continuously try to improve. Don't think that you're the best in the world because you're simply not. There's people that are better than you. But if you're not complacent, you'll continue to improve and you'll be the better person. And eventually, ironically, after I quit, maybe I'm the reason, they ended up like winning like the state championship that year. And I think a lot of it came down to him saying on repeat every time they lost, like, don't be complacent. So that's kind of how I always was, is I would lock in my brain this don't be complacent. So I always wanted to improve. I wanted to do better. I wanted it to be better. I think it's probably kind of fucked me up mentally, but that's kind of how I got into tips, is I just like always wanted to be better than the next guy. And people apparently wanted the same thing. And now I don't think anybody really cares, but that's because everybody's just calling people cheaters. So whatever.
Well, that actually leads me into what I was wanting to chat with you about. I mentioned this in our DM. Your video it was last year, I think it was, or a few months ago, where in game the guy calls you a cheater. You know which one I'm talking about, where you wall banged him with Combat Scout, you let him res. Yeah, walk us through that video and your thought process, because catching that in the moment, honestly, is fucking genius, dude.
You know, this is kind of goofy, but I had that happen so often that the only reason I posted it is because of what he said at the end. And because I was so very tired of people just immediately calling hacker. But I do that like very obviously Prox chat's broken right now, but I would do that very often. That was nothing like new for me. And I didn't realize it would go viral. This wasn't like, this is my viral moment. It was literally just, I'm just posting, you know, a shit clip. Like, that's what it is. Let me just like kind of show like people aren't cheating. And if you watch the clip, you'll notice that it was literally like super raw. It was like 2.5 minutes of me just talking to this dude. But my mindset was literally just, I hop in, I knock this guy, he's like, "You effing cheater," and immediately my brain's like, oh my god, every time, dude, I do anything. You don't understand the game, and it's literally not my fault. If you stop calling people cheaters and think for 2 seconds, how could that happen? That's immediately when I get killed in Warzone. The first thing I do is I go, is he cheating, or how did he do that? Like if it's a sus moment, then I'll watch and I'm like, all right, I know kill cams and spectating are broken. What could this be? Like my thought process is to immediately play devil's advocate for myself, because if I don't, then I'm going to just become kind of a piece of shit. So I have to be like, all right, how could they have done it? Did they have combat scout? Did they live ping me? Like what kind of gun did they have? Did they hear me? This is the exact reason I got my audio tuned, is because I wanted to know what other people were hearing, because I need to know if it's because they have their audio better or something like that. Could they have possibly heard me? I will note, kill cams, you'll hear things way louder than they actually are to you, but who knows what's going on. So my first goal is to think, what could have caused this? And I think a lot of people just don't do that. They immediately go to the pointing fingers like place. They immediately play that victim. It's like, I'm not doing cheater, damn it. And I think like we all do that to some extent, but I just hate it so much because it's such a weak mindset to immediately point and call everybody a cheater. And I've heard that year over year from my audience, that anytime I call someone a cheater, they have a specific reason as to why they're not a cheater. But usually I can go back in and showcase the exact reason I said that, because I play devil's advocate every single time. So I literally go through the list of things in my head. What makes this person a cheater? What makes this not a cheater? That's the reason that I showed that guy, because I thought really it was like, dude, all right, I'm going to teach you something today. All right. My job, what I do for a living is I give tips to people. So today's your day, you son of a bitch. You going to learn something. So he started like getting loud with me. And I was like, you shut the fuck up and you listen. All right. Let me get up. I'm not going to kill you. Get your ass over here. And he comes around the corner. And I was like, you see this right here? You see this freaking wood wall? You can shoot through that. It doesn't matter what weapon you have. It doesn't matter if you got a pea shooter. You can shoot through that thing and it's going to hit the target. I run combat scout. So if you're around the wall, I shoot you one time, I can just follow you as you come around the corner and immediately eliminate you on the other side. And you could do that to anyone. It doesn't mean I'm cheating. Ironically, this is the funny part of the story. The guy found the video on Facebook. I posted it on Facebook. The guy found the video on Facebook. And after I showed like the heartbeat sensor and stuff like that, which is how I originally knew that he was there. And I knew the difference between height level, because there's not a specific area on that building that he could have been. And people always tried to point like, he could have been right there. No, he couldn't have. There's no room right there. It's completely blocked off because the door is fake. You were saying earlier, we got a bunch of random fake doors. But the funny thing is that he found it on Facebook later, and he was like, oh, I didn't know this, that, or the other thing. You're still a cheater. And I was like, Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
And I double checked. It was him. It was him. I found him, and it was him. I went through all of his videos on his page because he sent like a very long message, and it was very like first person point of view. I was like, is this him? That would be super crazy if that was him. I went through, I matched his voice to my clip, and I was like, son of a bitch. He learned nothing. I did all of that, and 50 million people watched that clip. Like, I'm not talking about my page, sure. I think like a certain number of millions of people, but it got shared on Snapchat, and God knows how crazy Snapchat is. And then everybody stole it on Facebook. Everybody stole it on every platform. I'm good with that. I don't care. I mean, I was a little annoyed that Swag posted it on TikTok in the full form and probably made thousands of dollars. And Wapod tried to post it. They wouldn't let me. They wouldn't let me. So I couldn't make money on that thing. So this man made thousands of dollars on it. I didn't make a goddamn penny on that thing.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I was like, son of a bitch, really? But yeah, I was like, dang it, dude, this man really didn't learn a thing from that. And it hurts so bad whenever you spend so much time trying to teach somebody something and hundreds of millions of people will see something and they can like, you see this differentiator between the people where it's like, this person listened, this person didn't care to listen, just wanted to call you a cheater. And I think that's kind of just like a world state that we're in right now where people are just like playing the victim or they care to listen. And it's hard to differentiate.
It's really frustrating because I think like these manipulated videos that show people supposedly cheating that go out on social media, they've done a whole lot of damage, I think, to the Call of Duty player base as a whole, because it's created a lot of like mistrust. And I'm of your same mindset as far as like playing devil's advocate in my mind. It's like, I don't always immediately go to cheating. You know, I might be like, how? And then I'll think in my mind, well, was there a UAV up? Did I get live pinged? You know, all of those things that you mentioned. So that's why I found your video very, very refreshing. And it was great because people that are in the demographic to not actually take in Call of Duty content that I'm friends with in real life actually saw your video.
Yeah.
So
the guy that like does the front desk at Orange Theory for us, he was like, I saw your video. I was like, what the fuck? What do you mean? What do you mean you saw my video? He was like, yeah. I thought you did like YouTube or something, and it came across my page the other day, and I was like, what? I just came here to work out, bro. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. Well, no, that's pretty
Success
cool,
is
man.
following you.
Yeah, you know what? Still can't get him to watch our proposal vlog. That son of a gun. I have said it. You know what? This is very off topic, but I swear to God, if he doesn't watch that goddamn vlog, he was like, "Y'all got you got engaged." I was like, "Yeah." Tried to get him to watch the vlog, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. I swear I'll watch it."
I enjoyed it.
I appreciate that. Somebody watched it. Damn it.
Yeah.
Good memory. But yeah, I
that's
definitely hear what you're saying. A lot of people like outside of the normal realm watch that video, and like Michael B. Jordan watched the video. Like he commented on the video, and I was like,
that's crazy.
Warmonger, huh? This dude I've watched my whole life, watched my video? What are you talking about? And look, I'm not someone that like really gives a shit about like whether or not someone does this, that, or the other thing. During COVID, I had so many NFL players try to play with me, but I don't watch sports. So I would always tell them no. I was like, I have no idea who you are. And it's not going to be good because I don't know what you do. So it doesn't make sense. Like as much as I would like to, massive YouTube channels would reach out and they were like, you want a game? And I was like, I don't fucking know you. I wish, because it feels awkward. I know it's a big opportunity to like play with people and like, you know, put your audiences together. But if I don't know you, I'm not going to connect with you.
You gotta have chemistry, man.
Yeah, I'm a firm. If you ever watch my videos, you will notice I play with the same people over and over and over. And none of these dudes have massive channels. I don't play with the big dogs because I don't connect with them. I don't have like, sure, we might agree on certain things, but I'm not a part of that clique. It's not my thing. I don't think it's ever going to be my thing. I tried to get invited to COD Next. I remember posting videos trying to get into COD Next, but the issue is again, not for nothing, but I'm not a part of any clique. So it's really hard to get in whenever like no one's vouching for you.
Yeah.
Like the only person I think, and I'm going to say this up front, Modern Warzone was one of the only people that vouched for me up front. And he sent me pictures of him. He was like, bro, I want you to know, like I reached out. I don't know if anything's going to happen, but I like fucking love you, Doug. Like he was the only dude that actually reached out and like talked to the influencer relation teams. Is like, hey, Expel's been in this for a long time. Get his ass in there. And they were like, we don't know. And I was like, well, all right. I guess I need somebody else to vouch for me. Damn it, Doug.
Were you the first to do the spectating videos?
No, I was not the first to do it. I was the first to make it a series, and I was the one that popularized it. J-God did it way back in the day with, I think, World War II, and I didn't watch his videos. Actually, I would like to, ironically, this comes back around, but Sean P. made a video where he spectated a cheater. This is before the Nade Shot, big cheater video, and Tim the Tatman encouraged JD. Before they were making those huge videos, Sean P. made a video where he spectated a cheater. That sumbitch got 400,000 views. I was like, that would be cool if I ran into a cheater and spectated him. So the reason my first spectating a cheater video was 14 minutes was because I literally just ran into them in the middle of the game. And I was like, well, let's spectate it out. I didn't like search them out. I didn't like try and get a cheater or just splat and spectate, because it was just naturally I ran across this cheater. I was like, you know what? Let's see how they play. Dude was an idiot. Dude played terribly. He was not good at the game in the slightest, but my video blew up. And so people went from that video and started watching other videos. But then someone was like, why don't you spectate random players? And I wish I knew who said this in my comments. Honest to God, I wish I could give them props, because that comment probably made a big difference in my career. But I saw somebody say that and I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. So I hopped in and I made a video spectating random players in Warzone. Total asshole during that video. I was so annoyed with the guy just sitting on a roof for 5 minutes. You can go back and find it on my channel, but
I think I
was
saw that
very
one.
annoyed. I was like, why the hell is he playing like this? And most of my videos during Verdansk were like that, because people just didn't know how to play and they didn't care to learn how to play, which is fine. I don't really care if you care to learn how to play. It's more like just do something instead of wasting your 20 minutes. And I still stand by that. Instead of getting in a game and just sitting on a rooftop and not engaging, and because you're cold, you don't get a single kill. You waste the entire game. You will never get the win. So it's like, it really sucks to see people waste the one thing that they can't get back, which is time. And that's why I always fuss about it, is because I'm like, God, do something, do anything. It's not for my content. I just want to see you succeed. But yeah, I wasn't the first to do it, but I did popularize it. Then JGod saw how good it was doing, and he kind of brought a different aspect to it, which was watching and like really learning more about that player and why they make those decisions, which I really loved. I kind of picked up on that. And because of his videos, my videos picked up because I learned from him. He learned from me. We went back and forth by that. And then Tim the Tatman ruined it all. So that's it. I'm not saying like he literally like ruined spectating, but he took every view that there was for spectating. And then he left Call of Duty, right? So then he left Call of Duty. No one wanted to watch spectating anymore. So for a long time, it was really hard to get people to watch it. And then once, some of the other games came out, like Warzone 2, spectating sucked. It was terrible. Warzone 3 even, I mean, spectating right now is broken. Like everything about it is bugged. So it's still pretty hard to get people to watch it, but I do still just enjoy making the videos, as long as I don't have to be like super hyper and be like, yeah, I can't believe that. Yeah, I don't do that anymore. Now my videos are like, I don't know why he's making this decision. Please do something for the love of God. Because for some reason, when you die, sometimes you'll spectate someone random, and it's always the worst player in the lobby. I'm like losing my mind. I've found that if you just die to the guy in the gulag, you'll spectate them. But if you splat the ground, like you always spectate the worst player. And I'm like, why is it like this? So I've just started dying to the guy in the gulag and letting him send somebody. Because usually either that guy's really bad and I can leave immediately, or that guy will actually just push people because he died because he was pushing people.
Right. And that'll make some decent content.
Yeah, for the most part.
You get something going. It's funny because we didn't hide in rooftops. We hid in the attics, kind of near,
son of a
near
bitch.
farms.
I know. The second you said attic, I could see it in my brain.
Yeah, where, Claymores and Betty's, and both of us watching. It was me and my buddy. We were playing mostly duo. Sometimes we'd have a trio, and so, but that's how it would be. We would just sit there and like, we'd get our load out, and we were doing a lot of like, all right, Tango 2 1 3 go, blah blah, and then we just sit there, and then exactly.
That's
and
awesome.
it was absolutely like so Verdansk is my first BR. Like I dabbled in PUBG. I played PUBG like once. I'd played Fortnite like one game. Didn't understand it. Didn't know what I was doing. My buddy was excited about it because he knew more about this stuff. I was still maining NHL at the time, so I'd taken all of the jetpack era off of Call of Duty. So this is my first Call of Duty back, and so I was. I'm going to be straight up. It was like I was terrified to move because I didn't understand the game. There were people from all over the place. This, it was a huge map, right? There was no flow to it. There's not, coming out of multiplayer, it made no sense. And so it was like, it was you and it was Savage basically spectating and yelling at people hiding in attics like me. And basically like, what are you doing? It was like, what am I doing? And
yeah, there's no thought process going into it.
No, it was just like we're just hiding like little rabbits. And and so eventually, my buddy was like, he played with one of his buddies who was an aggressive player, and he's like, I had fun. We didn't win, but we had fun. And I'm like, and we're not having fun. I'm like, no, we're not having fun. And so we would start going out and like becoming more adventurous. And now I'm just reckless and push everything way above my skill level.
Yeah, that tends to be. That's the thing. That is.
But when it works out, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think that pacing matters in the game, and different situations call for different things. Like at the end of Modern Warfare 3 Warzone last year, for like the last 4 months, I played a lot of solos, and it was funny how the ebb and flow of the match would go. Like
Mhm.
sometimes at the beginning it would be really hot and you get a lot of kills, and then it would kind of slow down pacing wise. So you'd kind of just wait, see where circle is, those kind of things. And then it would pick up towards the end if you made it that far. I mean, I think that that's a situational thing, but I like to play a faster paced game too. And unfortunately, sometimes when you have people that you play with that don't want to play like that, and then you continue to play your game and you get into a fight and they're 150 meters back with a sniper scope in their eye,
Yeah.
when you really need ARs in the fight, that can be very, very frustrating. So that's part of why I went to playing a lot of solos, because I could control the tempo of the match, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to just sit in a corner the whole time. I don't want to sit on a roof all the time, but I do like to snipe some too. I think there's an appropriate time and place for that. But you do have like those players who that is literally their only play style. Like they just want to go fucking sit in a building somewhere, and that's, it's crazy to me to do that in pubs, because you don't learn anything, you don't get any better. Like you said, you're cold because you're not doing anything. So yeah, I definitely don't want to play that way.
I think there's a certain amount of forced pacing, which is bad. Like Call of Duty has made the matches for BR very short now. And I'm a firm believer that that's because they know that there's a shitload of bugs in the game and they want to make sure that people will stick around and play that, because otherwise they move to Resurgence, and then after Resurgence they leave.
Right.
So like you either play basically multiplayer with Resurgence or you play big map. If you're playing big map, you're connected to it, but you have to have that longer game to get connected. And if you have a longer game, even if there's only 120 people, you can choose how you play it. However, if they force the pacing and force everyone into each other all the time, you get these like annoying ass third parties 24/7, where you never are testing your skill against one person, which I think is that big thing about Battle Royale is like, of course, anybody can engage you and people will engage you, but that 1v1 battle with a random player who you know nothing about, and you're not facing them in a multiplayer stance where you're 5 feet away at all times and you're just dying on repeat, I think that really connects people to the game. But I think that if people want to camp, that's fine. Like if people want to sit on a rooftop, that's fine. I get frustrated only because they don't try to engage in anything whatsoever, and then they lose, and then they're pissed that they lose.
Yeah.
I've seen it time and time again. It's just the other mindset. If this dude dies because he's sitting there like playing with his dog or something like that, and he's just like sat his controller down so he can sit inside of a building, I don't give a shit. What does that matter? If I can tell that you're actively AFK, I can't be upset with you because you're sitting there and you're doing something else while you're just gaming. Like that is absolutely fine. It's better to do a battle royale than to have to pause the game and make no progress. Because at least if you do a battle royale, there's a chance that at the end you could win. But if you're actively just and you do nothing the whole game, that really sucks. And I've had that a few times in my recent videos where it's like people are mad at me because they're like, that's how they want to play. I'm like, I'm not sure that is how they want to play. I think they're just scared. And if you're playing scared, you're not winning. You're not going to have fun at the end of the day. So
I agree,
you kind of have to recognize what you're doing. And a lot of people lack that self-awareness. And a lot of people get upset because they think that I'm angry at these players because they're playing a specific way. I'm angry because of their reaction that they're guaranteed to have whenever they die, and they call somebody out for being a hacker, and then they report them, and then we get in this bullshit shadow ban system, and it's like, oh my God. It's just like, you have to recognize all the steps that get us to where we're at now, and it's all just a big chain reaction of people not knowing how to play, and that's okay. I don't care if you know how to play. I care that you at least give it a little bit of a shot.
Yeah. At least try, right? Like I'm with you on that too. Like I play with players of all skill levels, some that are way higher than mine, some that are lower than mine. I don't really care about that, but at least try. Like when we're in the game, just try to get into a gunfight, try to win the gunfight, try to learn from your mistakes. That's all, So
or just be a good communicator for your team. I mean, like sometimes I'll play with Pipe and he will kind of suck at getting full kills. But this man is very good at communicating, very good at tagging, very good at being a team player. And sometimes he gets pissed because he doesn't get kills and he gets on a roll. But sometimes he's just like there to help and make sure that we get the win. And if you work together as a team, like if you're playing a team-based game, it's a little bit different than solos. But if you are playing with a team, like you were saying with like that guy in the back sniping, I think that comes down to a communication issue or just your teammate not giving a shit.
And being scared to fucking die, so they don't want to get in the fight.
Yeah, so I think a lot of that is just communicating beforehand. Hey, what guns are we using? Like, what are you going to use this game? Like, you set up your favorite class before the game starts, and then when you go in, everybody's either got an assault rifle and an SMG, or you've got one dude with a sniper that can get that initial knock, but he's still pushing with like a mid-range weapon, something like a WSP-9, or obviously that's a different meta. But what I'm saying is like something that can hit that like mid-range, like close to mid-range, so that he's still useful whenever he's 15 steps behind. But a lot of it does just come down to communicating beforehand and making sure the boys aren't just going in like no idea what's happening.
Yeah. What's your what is your primary mode that you play as far as like
Solos.
Solos?
Yeah.
It is
So
solos.
it's just easier for content. Lately, I've been playing a lot of duos and trios because solos are bugged right now. There's a lot of like issues with it. I mean, for one, the buy stations are randomized, which is really annoying, but you don't have your teammate to back you up. So if you go into a situation and you can't see somebody because dynamic lighting shit, or because you go to jump off of a ladder and your parachute auto deploys, or this, that, or the other thing, if I'm in solos, I die. Like, there's no way around it. My game's over. But if I'm playing duos, my teammate sees that I do some stupid shit, and then he starts shooting, and then I'm able to self-revive. Something like that. So it's right now better to play like duos or trios until like they iron out a lot of these bugs with dynamic lighting, random parachute pulls, like slight little bugs that you die to, even though realistically you're obviously dying to someone else. But if I can't see a dude, it's not a gunfight thing. It's not like I missed my shots. It's not I, could have known that he was there. I physically can't see this dude. So I have tended to stray away from solos for the time being until they adjust a lot of these things that need adjustments.
Well, part of why I was playing solos so much at the end of last year, the last cycle, was in part because the matchmaking. It didn't matter who I squatted up with, people equal, less, or more. Like, being in a squad just was a fucking terrible experience. Like, last year for me, I've said this on this podcast several times, was the absolute worst year I've had since I started playing Call of Duty BR. Blackout's goated, by the way. But, so that was why I played a lot of solos. But I've noticed with this one so far, I'm playing with a dude that's got a 4.0 elim rate, like, which is pretty good. I don't have that. I'm less than a 2, but it's nice to be able to squad up and just play with your friends regardless of their skill level. You know what I mean? Like, that to me is what I've always wanted out of the matchmaking. I just don't want to like squad up with someone like you and then I know what my night's going to be like. It's just going to be fucking terrible.
Yeah, and sometimes your teammates have been on a roll before you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you hop in with a dude that's lower KD, but he's been on a roll, you're still going to get fucked by the matchmaking system. Like, it's still going to like hop in. Like, he might be worse and you're like, all right, I might get easier lobbies. He won the last 3 games, or he won one of your last 5 games. His matchmaking is naturally going to be harder against him because they don't care about giving him that win anymore. So it like the whole matchmaking system's chalked. I'm not gonna lie. I'm very tired of the engagement based matchmaking. If they want to make it purely based on skill, and I always face people exactly in my skill level, which they physically can't do, I'd even be fine with that. Make the whole thing ranked. I don't give a damn. But having something where it's like throwing me a bone randomly just annoys me to death. I just cannot deal with that, because that's what you see all the time. That's the reason that your lobbies are going to get harder or easier, is because it's actually just based on whether or not you're going to be engaged with the game. And they decide what's going to make you engaged, not you. Of course, it's like, I would like an easier lobby right now. You can't tell them that. Like, there's no way around it. You're stuck with whatever they decide.
My thought about that matchmaking thing is this: if I'm going to be farmed by players like you, sometimes I damn sure want to be able to farm people that are not as skilled as I am. You know what I mean? Like, make it more of like a random experience. And weren't you and Sub1, y'all had some dialogue a few weeks ago when he did his great video on SBMM and like what would happen if he actually removed it out of solos and just how the lobby breakdown would be? Are you familiar with that video?
Yeah, I think that happened because I started asking some questions in his DMs, because I was like, how would this actually affect players? Because everybody fusses about skill-based matchmaking on one side of the fence or the other side of the fence, where it's either, all right, if we remove skill-based matchmaking, everybody's going to play against demons all the time. Or everybody understands that if we make it fully connection, then realistically, it's just going to be a mix of all the players in your area. That's as simple as it gets. So you have to base everything on probabilities, which is what Subone kind of put together, is like, what are the actual probabilities based on the information we have at hand, which was obviously back from Caldera, so we don't actually know up-to-date information, but we have actually a much larger pool of players to figure this out from.
Well, they did a breakdown when they first launched ranked for Al Mazrah. If you remember, like they did that breakdown of like what percentage of who's playing Warzone was each rank, and you could tell it was right on line with what what we knew before then. That the top percentage players, like it's like single digit percent, are in like iridescent and top 250 or whatever compared to everywhere else. So I feel like his model actually, like, if you could overlay it really with that rank distribution graphic that they put out, but it is statistically impossible to play against players that are better than you every single game unless you are a 0.20 or whatever. Like, it's just statistically impossible. There aren't enough of the good players to play against them all the time. So the idea that if you remove SBMM, you're going to just continue to get shit on every single match, that's that's false, and B, it's not possible, like I said. And usually the folks that advocate for that stuff don't even play the game hardly at all anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, if you play the game 2 hours a week or less, you're probably going to get shit on anyway, and you're probably bad. You know what I mean? Like, it's just frustrating to me that the people who play the game all the time, our experience is manipulated to benefit people who don't even play the game. It makes no sense to me.
It's more about their monetary value, because the less you play, the more likely you are to buy blueprints, because you can't unlock the attachments, which is the exact reason that attachments have to be unlocked and the reason that they take so long.
That's why
so
we
all
have
of it's
loadouts.
really, it all comes down to greed, realistically. Like, the reason that the matchmaking system exists, and the reason that we even heard whenever we asked about it during Modern Warfare 2019, that everything would fall apart if we changed our matchmaking system, is because they want to ensure that they can make the most amount of money, not because they want to ensure that the fun is there. People might get frustrated and not play, but realistically, if you've ever watched somebody that's in a 2-box lobby, and I'm not trying to like say you should 2-box, but I'm saying if you ever watch somebody that's been in a 2-box lobby, no one leaves ever, no matter what. There is like, you will not see someone back out of the game in a 2-box lobby. You will have
you don't see
one
disconnected
dude,
very often.
yeah, you just don't. You don't see anybody disconnect. You'll have one dude. Look at Pro MVZ, right? This dude drops 18 nukes a game or whatever because he's in like a 6-box lobby. I don't know how the hell this man's getting into these lobbies, but these guys physically don't have thumbs. I swear to God, it's recruit bots. But you will see, like, jump in. He will drop 400 kills, and sure, he'll get reported, but people will watch, will stick through the entire match. And it's like, these people actually aren't leaving. I will say they may hop on less because they're getting annoyed, but there's just no way for us to know what's actually happening behind the scenes. And are we putting a focus on fun, or are we putting a focus on like store interactions? Like seeing how much, all right, I saw this guy had this gun and he shit on me, and that's the reason that I'm actually getting put in these like higher tier lobbies every once in a while, is so that I can see these guns. And I know for a fact they have patents on these things, but I don't know exactly how it's interacted with Warzone and things like that. And I'm not trying to be like a conspiracy theorist or whatever,
Sure.
but like, these people do buy guns, like blueprints and bundles and stuff like that based on what they see in the match. So if they're getting shit on by some dude using a weapon that they haven't unlocked yet, they're more likely to buy this stuff. So
well, I can tell you exactly, because I've had this happen. So like, I used to play with a group, and one of the guys would pop in and off. He'd play. He'd be the 2 hours a month player. PlayStation player that Sony is so keen to protect. But literally, like, one day we're sitting there and he hops on and he hadn't played in a month, and he said, "What's the good gun to use?" And we tell him, "Oh, you got to do this." He didn't have it unlocked. It was a DLC. He hadn't played since it came out, so he's like, "I don't have it unlocked." So he goes, "Hang on," and like a minute later, ding, his character model changes and he's got the meta gun. And it's like, well, that's why that exists. And it's like, and he actually bought the wrong one because he didn't listen to us.
Son of a bitch.
And so he bought the one that sucked. And then we're all like, "Dude, that one sucks." And he goes, "Oh, hold on, ding," and now he's got the one that's good. I'm like, you just dropped $40 on a game you've only played, 8 hours in like 3 months, and you're gonna play 2 hours tonight, and we won't see you for another month. Like,
there's no logic there. That's what I don't understand. Like,
I'll tell you what the logic is. Though, because when he doesn't do that, he gets shit on even worse than when he does do it, right? So like,
just
he actually could compete. Like, he would compete, and I'm not going to get into like the semantics of it, but he would sit there and he would like he would just play the way he likes to play, and he would get kills and he would have a good time. And then at the end of the day, right, like the next time he gets on, he wants that experience, so he'll buy the next bundle, like if things have changed, versus like me, who just sits there and is grinding the shit out of camos so that I have every gun available and I can just pick up and roll whenever the meta shifts, because some of us are addicts and some of us like to just spend money.
Yeah,
but there's
I think it really comes down to like the kind of players, right? So if you look at the people that come on every once in a while, or you look at the people that they're trying to pull in, like new players, you'll see that there's a big difference between them and the grinders. The grinders, they'll just work their ass off for it. They're not going to spend the money. So why the hell would they care like how they feel?
I mean, look,
that's
I
why
like my guns to look pretty. Okay, I want the little Christmas outfit.
Right. And that they add these things to the game to ensure the retention, because the longer you play, the more likely you are to spend this money. But the thing is like the players that are new and the players that just hop on every once in a while, they're guaranteed to buy the game every year, right? They're guaranteed to at least purchase it to try it. And then they're guaranteed that when they come back in 6 months, they're going to buy a blueprint because they haven't kept up with the meta. So a lot of it is like they're cultivating this new audience. But the issue is that new audience, like they'll get more year over year and then they'll just slowly fade the game out. A lot of it is just like not thinking forward, which I think is a big issue whenever it comes to these like execs and focusing on like making that money really, really quick. Is eventually you might have it good for 10 years, but at some point you are going to screw things up so bad with your regular player base that these people that do have a platform are literally going to say, do not play this game. And I'm not saying that everyone watches YouTube, but word spreads from friend to friend outside of just creators saying it to a specific audience. So eventually, every friend group has a grinder. Like there's just no way around it. Every single friend group has one dude that's been playing the entire year. And then everybody else hops on one night and they're like, let's play that. What's that COD game that came out this year? Black Cock 6? It's like, nope, I know I'm a grinder, but not that kind. Wait a minute. So I like eventually they'll come back and they'll just buy blueprints, and like the issue is that they'll also eventually just phase out everything. That's the problem with Warzone right now. Is I'm a little worried that the more they screw it up and don't make it standalone, the more likely they are to just get rid of Warzone, because it's not making as much as the mobile games. Let's be real. Like Warzone is free to play, and obviously a bunch of people buy skins, but right now the audience and the attention is so low on the game that it could just like die out fully, and then they delete Warzone entirely. Even though we're supposed to have Verdansk come back, we're supposed to have Avalon, we're supposed to have new like resurgence maps and stuff like that. Like things are already planned, but we've seen them kill stuff quick. Like they made the entirety of Blackout 2. I don't know like if y'all ever got to see it, but I watched in a Discord call a leaker physically play Blackout 2. It was fully created and everything. They downloaded it, I think, from like one of the beta files, because for some reason they always upload this stuff in the beta files, which is crazy. I don't know how they forget that people can just like data mine that shit. But I watched someone literally like put together all these packets so that they could play the game. And I watched them play the game, and it played just like Blackout, but it was on Cold War's engine. It was really cool, but they killed it because Warzone was doing well. So if something else is doing well, there's more of a chance that they're just going to kill it.
So I think that we were robbed when it comes to that. And I'll say this too, back on our conversation, regarding like the blueprints and everything else. You know what would be easier for people who don't play the game? Blackout. You don't have to have meta loadout weapons. Of course. But they could do, we've had this conversation before, Sub and I have. They could monetize, make the store the same way Apex does. It's all cosmetic. It's not
Fortnite,
blueprints. Yeah, or Fortnite. Like, you don't have to have meta weapons in there, but as long as it's tied to the yearly title, this is what we're going to have. It just is. It needs to be its own thing.
I do agree that it needs to be its own thing, but the thing is you have to look at the way that Activision is greedy versus the way that like Epic is greedy, right? Or the way that whatever Respawn is greedy. Like they're greedy in different ways. They recognize like certain things, and Activision just doesn't give a shit. They do not care. They will happily monetize it in whatever way that they can. And there goes COD next. But like that's kind of the thing, is they monetize a very different way, and it's very like not consumer focused. Like, have you ever noticed that Fortnite fucks up? They'll give people a skin, or they'll give them 2,000 V-Bucks. Call of Duty fucks up. They're like, well, y'all are shit out of luck.
No,
Suck
you
it
get
up.
a little weapon charm
If
in
they
the store.
say anything
You get the
about
free
it
weapon
at all.
My
charm.
bad. I forgot you get a weapon charm that no one's ever going to use because there's 1,800 of them that still no one uses, and we're tired of listening to ching, 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 ching while we're trying to shoot, and we have no idea what's going on. What is going on with these weapon charms?
Yeah, but I mean, like, that's if they say anything at all. Like, that's the frustrating thing
Yeah.
to me, too. It's like, okay, for example, you talked about the shadow ban thing. It's crazy to me that as of yesterday, 72% of the players that played at the Warzone, World Series of Warzone LAN have been fucking shadow banned, but they have said nothing about it. Nothing. Like, just at least put something out on social media and be like, hey, listen, we know this is an issue. We're working on it. That would go a long way towards building goodwill.
I agree, and I think Raven does a great job with that. The issue is Raven isn't in charge of Ricochet. So Raven is often the ones that like are very upfront. They're the reason that every Warzone has been good in whatever capacity it's been good.
Whenever it is.
Right. So Raven, like, I don't know if you remember this, Raven took over in Verdansk. After Raven took over, they got rid of all the bugs. All the bugs. The only issue that we had in Verdansk was cheaters. Like at the end of it, cheaters were the problem because Raven fixed everything. Obviously, they created Caldera. Like, you got to take that L. You messed up whenever you made the map, and it was way too complicated for these consoles like PS4 and Xbox One to deal with. And so people couldn't like run the game. But then they fixed that too. Like they were pretty quick with fixing that, but they were always chasing another company. But Raven is upfront about it. The issue is Team Ricochet is one, I swear to God, they're not real, but Team Ricochet is faceless. No one knows what's going on with Ricochet. No one communicates with Ricochet truly. Like, obviously, there's a way to, but we don't know what it is. We don't know how they communicate. They always have random stuff in the patch notes about what Ricochet did. And then those exact things from Team Ricochet that they did, like they changed the way that ping thresholds work. Now people in Australia can't play.
Well, and we're having huge issues, even here locally. I'm having more packet loss and, high ping than I ever had last year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a server issue, and they're doing their best to fix it. And I'll sit here and I'll gargle on the of Raven all day, but every other company involved, I can't give a W to. Like, I can't, because they've screwed it up 10 times over.
So to kind of confirm what you were talking about as far as like nobody knowing Raven, Ricochet. Like, I know somebody that works on the game, and we've talked about this before. They don't communicate with any of the other teams on anything.
Yeah.
So like, you know what I mean? Like they are their own separate entity. They don't internally communicate with even any of the design teams.
I mean, obviously that comes down to like patents and AI and bullshit like that. But
so I've been in tech and the trust and safety teams. Like, so I worked for AT&T at one point in their psychic department, and we dealt with psychics at AT&T.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they
like psychic hotline type stuff.
Yeah. Welcome to my world.
Keep going.
Sorry.
And we also dealt with their spicy content too. But the thing that we had to deal with was, credit card fraud was really rampant, right? Like, people would literally drop 10 G's on some loon telling them their future, and then realize they can't pay their mortgage, right? And they're like,
got it.
I didn't make these charges, right? And we had a trust and safety team that would deal with this stuff. And sometimes it was fraudulent, and sometimes it was user error in calling one in the first place. And the thing is they dealt with so much sensitive stuff, and they had to be so careful that they sat the other side of the cubicle from where I would like in front of me was the wall, and they were on the other side of it. And they weren't allowed to talk to me in most situations. Like, when they're at their cubicle, like, it was like a red line. Like, don't cross that red line. You don't talk to that person unless you're invited. And they would hide their screens, and like it was this secretive, like, the communication from them, that team, went through their manager, which then she disseminated what everybody needed to know. And the only reason I learned about it is that she was poaching me to be on their team. And, I ended up at the last minute leaving for a different company. So, but I got to get in there and and see it there, but I was not allowed to talk about what I saw or what we talked about with anybody. And it was like, if the CEO walks in and asks you a question, you direct that question to the manager. You do not talk about what you've seen here. And, you know, a lot of it is because they have so much access that, and this happened once, that, you know, you could very quickly set up a little shell operation inside the company with what they have access to. And you could just run your own little fiefdom. And, you know, one of the guys in a different department, and, you know, who kind of was a little in on some of this stuff, ended up, you know, skating 15 grand over 3 months. And, you know, a bunch of people got canned and they got even tighter. But it's like, you know, so from a tech standpoint, it's one of those things of like, the security people have to be so closed mouthed and so shut off from everything, because the ability to just be a horrible person with what you have access to is a lot. Like, it's so easy to do that. So I understand why Ricochet doesn't tell us shit.
Absolutely.
From that point, right? Like, I get it. It doesn't mean it doesn't suck. And especially when they're not, you know, their system, look, let's be clear, they're not always on. And the fact that Ricochet is not always on means it fails. Like, period, end of story. Like, if they were always on, our problems would drop 90%.
Well, I don't know about that. I think Ricochet right now only has specific things that it recognizes. And a lot of that is just like messing with system memory. Like, whatever's going on in your RAM, if they see that there's like a manipulation there, they can catch that. They have certain like keywords that they can catch. And then I also think that obviously there's certain websites that sell specific kinds of cheats that they've figured out how to recognize those cheats. However, anytime there's an update, it's gone, because they have very specific things that they use, like very specific parameters that allow them to find these things. Other than that, anything that isn't within that list is undetectable. And undetectable means people aren't getting banned, which means what the fuck is going on with shadow bans? Like,
well, yeah,
we are throwing people into this limited matchmaking, and they're not looking at it because they can't prove anything. They can't ban them.
Yeah. So why should it take so long?
What I did, I did a series earlier this year about cheaters, and I talked to people, and you know, Caps Lock was another creator who did, you know, who kind of opened up the Ziebler character, if you've come across that. And one of the, you know, so I got to learn a lot about how this stuff works on the back end from like the cheat developer side. And it's like, basically what they're doing is they basically write code that tells Ricochet to go look elsewhere. Like, it's literally like Obi-Wan Kenobi, these aren't the cheats you're looking for. Right?
Yeah.
This isn't, it's titled Mind Your Business.
This isn't the code you're looking for, right? And the only reason it works is because they can boot that up before they boot Ricochet up. And so when companies get detected, it means Ricochet changes something and they don't catch that change before it goes live. And then Ricochet, you know, and then so the mind trick doesn't work, right? And that's what Valorant does, right? Like, I mean, Valorant doesn't catch everybody, but it catches them pretty quick, because there's only so much you can do before the system will, you know, nobody can tell the Valorant anti-cheat to look elsewhere, because the Valorant anti-cheat, you know, boots first. And so eventually they're going to catch on to what's going on. Ricochet doesn't boot. It boots only with the game. And they did that because nobody trusts Activision, right? Like, you look at the Caldera era, right? If you
we talked about this back in Verdansk. I remember when they first started talking about it, they were like, I don't trust Activision to do it. You're 100% right on that. That's exactly what I remember, watching tons of videos of people being like, they'll just steal our shit. And it's because when you have a greedy ass company that is known for doing messed up stuff over and over and over, what's going to keep them from doing some greedy shit?
I mean, there's nothing that would stop them from, like, you know, hey, oh, I see your browser history. How about I advertise this skin to you, right? Like,
right.
It already goes on in every major company, right? Like, they it's already there, right? You know, why pay for that from other sources? They could just see it for themselves, right? Totally legitimate concern. Totally legitimate, right? And so they did Ricochet the way they did, specifically to deal with that accusation of like, hey, it only works while you're playing the game. So if you're not playing the game, we're not watching you. Guess what? Now it doesn't work. And that's the problem. We're, you know, and that's what we have to deal with, right? Like, it just,
I feel like you just have to take the L at some capacity just to have something that works. And it really sucks that you don't trust the company. But I mean,
you know what I want?
What's the play?
I want to see Microsoft do a gaming operating partition where, like, if you want to play online, your system
Don't they have that?
reboot.
I thought they had that. I thought they had something like that already for Windows. I thought that was like
they have like a gaming
sort of
mode,
game
which is like a performance.
Right.
It's a performance mode, right? So like it adjusts processes so that your game sees the biggest benefit. But like,
you want something like game mode, but it
reboot.
locks you in.
Yeah, I want it to reboot in like an Xbox mode, where it's like if you don't have a signed piece of hardware and your software isn't on the approved list, it doesn't work. Like you don't get to do that. Like,
I think that'd be
that's
good.
the answer. I think that's where we need to be.
I definitely agree with that. I think like that's been kind of where my head's at. I thought that was already an option where they could do that, and they just needed to like, check that off, like make sure that that's something that we have to do. But obviously, if like game mode doesn't do that, then we just have somewhere to go to in this capacity. Is like that's where we go. That's exactly what we do right there.
Yeah. I would. It's just it's out of control, and and that's the problem, right? It's like nobody. There's so much information out there that is either off base or just completely made up. That it's even hard to have the conversation with people. For that. Yeah, but we can also thank the game for like enabling a lot of this stuff.
Activision is at fault. I want to be very clear. Activision at fault, but there's people that utilize the mistakes of Activision to monetize and manipulate and confuse. And I think that is one of the things that has really been frustrating. Is you just watch people do that, and if you have done your research and you understand what's actually going on, then you can see that someone's doing that, and you can shout it from rooftops. But realistically, most people are not that bright. Most people do not do their research. Most people can't get above 100 on an IQ test. Like, I mean, like it sounds hateful, and I've mentioned this a few times in my videos, but most people, at least in America, are like the mean IQ is 98 in the United States of America. So most people couldn't pass to get their high school diploma. Most people couldn't do like, are you smarter than a fifth grader? Right? Like these people didn't pay attention. Yeah. These people don't pay attention. They don't care to pay attention. They don't care to do their research. They don't care to understand. They just want something to be mad at. Like everybody wants to play the victim, which damn, we're full circle. But everybody wants to play the victim, and I think that like that leads into you find somebody that affirms your opinion without full evidence. And I keep saying this, and I know that people will like fight me on this, but unless I see cheats on someone's computer, or I see them accidentally pull up boxes or something of that nature, or they accidentally admit it, like admit it, I am not going to say this person is cheating. Like at least whenever it comes to like content creators and stuff like that, because if I watch them day in and day out and I see that everything is explainable, why am I going to assume that this one time it's not explainable and I just don't understand?
I had a really interesting moment. So Iceman Isaac had a segment that he was spectated by a guy, a creator called at the time he went by Grandpa Hacks. Now he goes by Grandpa Spectates. He's a cool dude. Like I followed him for a while. Like we followed each other for a while now.
Is his content monetized?
I don't know, to be honest.
If you make content where you use cheats and it's monetized, I just don't like you. Like that's all that it comes down to, especially whenever Grandpa Hacks specifically has gone out of his way to not include certain things in videos to where it looks like someone is cheating, and then he makes more money off of that because it's like, have you seen this video? Have you seen this video? Have you seen this video? And that's the problem that I have with him. And then he also has lied to his audience saying that, oh, I don't cheat outside of making these videos. It's like, brother, you've been proven to cheat outside of these videos.
Yeah. I mean, I have no, it's one of those things of like, I like to look at the face value of like when he puts a video out. So he did Iceman Isaac, right? I don't know if you saw that video.
I saw Isaac's video.
So
I also saw the video he did on me that left out a billion different things, but that's a whole different thing.
I saw that. I was laughing. I was like, all right. Which is funny because I think I messaged you about it because I watched that video and I was like, there's literally nothing sus that Expel has done this whole time. He's just
everybody
like
pointed at one thing where I was on a set of train tracks and I heard a guy, but all you can hear is us like talking. Like he pulled that audio, but like you can't tell my audio because we're all talking over it at the time. So you don't get the audio cue like I got. I went back in my video and I looked and like I could hear it, but his audio was like chalked because it just like overlaid, like all messed up.
And audio doesn't translate all the way. A lot of times when you spectate from the, when you're spectating somebody, like you don't get the same like, audio experience that everybody else gets.
You don't get it at all now. It's completely broken.
Yeah.
I've had to
before
explain
you
this
would
a
get at
billion
something,
times.
right? And it's like, but I remember the Iceman video where it was like he does the whole video, and I watched the whole thing. But there's this one moment where he's on the crane on Trump Tower, and he's and he just like looks at a wall and changes the zoom on his gun on his scope, and then somebody pops out like a couple seconds later, pops out from there, and he starts gunning him, and everybody's like losing their mind over it. Like a proof that Iceman is cheating. And I'm like, these are people who don't know how cheats work at all. Like, and this is the part that always bugs me, right? Is people don't actually know how this stuff works. They don't know how cheats work because, you know, maybe back in like Blackout or Verdansk, right? You know, cheats were a little bit more rage hacky and nobody cared. But now it's like, if you can't shoot somebody and see them, it gives you a different color. Like, you know that you can't see them.
Yeah.
And so the idea that he would ADS on someone he knows he can't see, like someone like Iceman, who is very, very sharp. He's a very smart dude. And, you know, like that's a rookie mistake. That's like the kind of error that you get. Like most cheaters are really bad at the game, like you said earlier. And I've talked to some of these guys that are really bad at the game and they cheat and they're still bad at the game with their cheats. Right. Like I spectated one and he didn't plate up and went into a gunfight and died. And he's like, how did I die? You didn't put plates in. That's how you die.
Yeah.
You can aimbot all you want, but like if you don't have plates on, you're not going to win the gunfight. And it's like, but watching people who don't understand how the cheats work make accusations about cheating is wild because it's like that would never happen. And man, I got so many hacker hunters that got so mad at me when I pointed that out. I'm like, he would not do that if he was actually cheating because he would know that he can't see that guy. There's no point in ADSing on him because it's not going to do like it would give the game away, right? Like if he was doing it and then his video came out and he was like, oh, you know, I do this like 5 times a game, and he showed all the clips from that video of like him ADSing and changing his zoom level. And it's like, that's a very reasonable explanation for what he's doing. And I think that's the problem is that everybody will sit there and go straight to cheating as like, oh, it's got to be cheating. And it's like, well, here's a reasonable explanation for what happened. Here's a way in which you can explain it based on just the mechanics of the game working a certain way. And people don't want to hear it. Like they
or
want
sheer randomness.
Or sheer randomness. Yeah.
Yeah. We forget this dude played for 12 hours a day. That happened a singular time. And there happened to be a guy from where he was like looking. Like,
yeah. And it's just, it worked out the one time. And it's like,
yeah. Then every other time there was no one there. Huh. That's weird.
Well, we're now at a point where like just normal guys like myself are accused of cheating. I put out a TikTok video from Al Majra where, you know, I throw an airstrike on one side of the building. I'd already known there were 2 people around there. I rotate up to a higher position and beam both of them. And then people in my video are like, yeah, nice cheats. You're cheating. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, dude, I did exactly what I did based off of the information that I have. You know, some people can see the game and, you know, just no flow of the game.
Like, damn it, you're not blind? What the fuck?
I'm not fucking Helen Keller, bro. Like, I knew there were people behind there, which is why I threw the airstrike on one side of the building and rotated to the other, you know? So it's just kind of crazy just how, like, even just normal people are even accused of cheating anymore.
Yeah, it's.
I think again, a lot of that comes down to a very bad system with one, reports exist, so everybody feels like they are doing something. It's all placebo, but the kill cams and the spectating are not correct in the slightest. Ever since Verdansk, recoil patterns didn't show. This has always been a thing, but now your minimap's not correct. Sometimes your player count isn't correct. The number of plates that you have isn't correct. The perks that you have aren't correct. It won't show high alert on the screen. Obviously, there's no recoil because there's no recoil pattern. There's no visual shake, which never showed up, by the way, in kill cams, funny enough. Like, there are so many different things that don't exist. The audio is completely wrong. You hear every gunfight happening while you're spectating or while you're in a kill cam. That is the issue, is that you physically can't tell. Everything is wrong. Every single thing in the kill cam is wrong, except for the fact that you died. That is all that it is. Like, that's all that it is. And when I spectate every single time, and I've really struggled with spectating because of this, it's gotten worse and worse progressively. And it's like, how the hell we get it right in Warzone 1, except for one singular thing? And now it's everything's wrong. And then they have a system built around it to where it's like, you spectated this guy or you died to this guy and you think they're cheating. What makes you think they're cheating? Oh, our broken fucking system. You know what? We'll go ahead and throw this guy into limited matchmaking for about a week. We'll make him feel that he shouldn't be good at the game. And then we have thousands upon thousands of players leaving because of that. And it's very frustrating. And then I get comments. I wish I could pull up a comment right now, but I got a comment today where it was a guy like, dude, I've been playing for a long time and I've never been shadow banned. It was like, bro, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you fucking suck. Like, that's the reality of it. And I'm not saying everybody sucks that's never been shadow banned, but it's either you suck, no one thinks you're cheating, or you have a very high trust score because, like you said, you've been playing for a very long time. Like, yes, there's players that like should have a high trust score, but they also get reported a lot more than the average player. So their trust score may be like 500. It takes 500 reports. But if they're absolutely dogging on people all day, 500 reports is going to come a lot faster than your 4 reports whenever you're a 1 KD max. So you just kind of have to recognize the difference between like all the trust scores and stuff like that, and the likelihood of someone getting shadowed versus not shadowed. Hell, I don't even think streamer mode works anymore. Like, I think like the streamer plus or whatever that they give out, I think people with that are also getting shadow banned. Like, they have them. I mean, they obviously can get banned. They always have been. Like, I think Nitro Luke DX, 700,000 followers, dude's gone in an instant. Now he does crypto scams, which is hilarious. But like, there are people that get banned. Hell, they banned Bobby, didn't apologize, and then brought him back because they realized they messed up, which apparently, by the way, they knew and were just cold, like bold-faced lying to Bobby about. It's just like, we have just such a broken system right now whenever it comes to a lot of things. And obviously I don't want to sit here and like harp on shadow bans forever, but it is very frustrating to see. And it's not just content creators. I see people in my comments every single day and people are like, oh, now that content creators are getting shadow banned. No, we have examples. We can prove this because content creators are getting shadow banned. That's why it's reaching a fever pitch right now, is because before it's like, I can't show you people getting shadow banned because average people aren't recording their gameplay and sending it to the creators to be like, hey, fuss about this. No one does that. No one's taking a screenshot of their stuff and showing it. Now we are able to see it because large creators are like getting shadow banned and they can be like, hey, this is a problem. I can show you, this is what's happening. This is how it happened. So I think a lot of people just don't see the whole story. Like, they don't think about the full like perspective of how we end up where we're at. And they're just like, oh, now that you're getting shadow banned, now you want to talk about it. It's too late, buddy. It's like, what are we supposed to do? Jay God talked about it a billion times way back in Caldera. He was like, people are getting shadow banned. Activision, hey, let's fix this. And creators had a higher trust score back then because a lot of them were on the game.
That's what I hate about kind of just the overall state of like the player base, just the division within it and the overall sentiment towards content creators, you know, that you guys are all dirty,
Cheaters.
rotten bastards, cheaters and everything else. And it's like, you know, you're using your voice, you're using your platform to try to make the game better for everyone, not just the content creators, morons. You know, like, that's what's frustrating to me.
Nixta, I don't think it's making the game better for everybody.
What?
Yeah, well, somebody's got a 16 box into Rebirth solos.
I don't think Nixta tried to make the game better for everybody, but but most of the big names do.
I think the issue is a lot of these resurgent streamers just kind of whine and gripe with no explanation. And I'm not talking about Nixta specifically, but I see a lot of like resurgence content creators that literally just bitch about something, but don't offer any kind of solution. And I'm not saying you should be an armchair developer, but be like, hey, maybe if we did this so that you can at least spark ideas. Well, look, I don't know if you remember the whole reason that we started talking, but it was because you were the only person that has ever worked in this field. Only person that responded to my large tweet calling out Activision for the bullshit they're doing and not caring about the player base. You were the only person that actually gave any sort of explanation whatsoever. I had over 1,000, maybe 1,500 developers that quote tweeted my thing and said like, hey, you're an idiot. Hey, you're an idiot. You're an armchair developer over here. You were the only person that actually like was like, well, maybe it's this. And from my understanding and my, experiences in life, I've seen people do this, this, and this. And that's why you were the first person that I retweeted. And I was like, holy shit, someone actually responded and was respectful and wanted to help. And like, that's probably like why we communicate now, is that exact thing.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you just are a good person.
Debatable. But I think it's one of those things of like, and it kind of goes, it mirrors the I think what we have, kind of in the player base in this like community in general of like, you have a lot of people that are very antagonistic to everybody who is different than them in a lot of ways. And this is like, look, like this is society right now, right? Overall. And so, I'm not surprised, but it's like, you get people that like, they see the world a certain way, they play the game a certain way, and people that play it different than them, they get mad about, right? And this happened to me in real life with people that I've had to my home, right? Where it's like, I want to take the game, play the game a certain way, they don't want to, and they get angry. Like we would have huge blow up fights, in the game, like to the point that people were like, I'm just gonna leave the party because you guys are just having at it. And it's like, and it's ridiculous, and it's like, and we're just players, right? And then it's like, you get, people that stream or make content for a living, and it's like they see the game a certain way, and it's like people don't want to talk to them, in that way. They want to yell at them, and then you get it the other way too, right? You get creators that will sit there and the shitters get their way, or the 9 to 5 dads are on the game, watch out, right? You get that attitude, right? And then the people that play the game, reciprocate that back. And it's like, and the same thing was going on, I think, between, your very valid concerns and, developers who like, basically get shit on all day whenever, if they rear their heads on social media, they get shit on. And that's something I've also, I wrote that because I've experienced that, right? So like when I worked for a major tech company, and there was one instance where, we were redoing our account levels, and we went from 3 accounts to 4 accounts, and part of that was a price increase, which everybody was going to be thrilled about. We knew that, but we wanted to kind of rejigger the account levels and make some other changes to that. And so what happened was, we were going to roll this out on a Tuesday morning. I've discovered a way that logging into your account could charge you for that year, your yearly cost.
Oof.
Every time you logged in. And I went, this might be a problem. And it was an edge case for sure. But, you take a small edge case, as we in Warzone know, you take a small thing that only happens once in a while, you multiply that by a few million people, and it's going to happen a lot more than you think. And then it goes online, and then it's a big deal, right? And so literally the launch ground to a halt hours before we went live. Marketing we had to stop marketing, we had to stop everything, and it took until Friday morning to fix it and like really fix it. And so they went, it was a holiday weekend. It was like, because of the way the books worked, like we had to have it out that week. It was like, we have to ship it, otherwise it screws up the accounting for the next year.
Mm-hmm.
And so they put it out. We all went away. I think it was like Labor Day or something. We come back and it's like a nightmare. And everybody's accusing the company of like, you guys are, you pushed this out right before a holiday weekend to hide it from everybody, and you're, underhanded and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, we're literally saving your wallets. And so I made the mistake of going into the forum and trying to explain and say, this was kind of my fault, but there was a problem, and it was going to be a really big deal. And I said as much as I could without like getting in trouble. I deleted my entire forum account within about 10 hours because it was just hateful and awful. And so I was like, watching everything going around when you made that post. And I'm like, I get it. Like, I get where you're coming from, and I get where the developers are coming from. And I think that's kind of how Jay and I ended up starting this podcast, is trying to like be able to have this conversation with people of different, from all these different worlds, and bring them together and have a conversation, right? And have that go that way, where it's not like everybody's being antagonistic, because I think that's where we fall apart, right? Where everybody wants to just yell at somebody because they're not happy. And it's like, bro, like, you have something to learn from somebody else because they're better than you. It just happens. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. The conversation has to go two ways, I think.
I definitely agree. I think there's a certain amount of like, obviously we need to have some sort of like transparent communication about certain things. And again, this is why I'm going to say Raven has been kind of crushing it lately. But then there's like also times where it's okay to kind of point at the executives and be like, honestly, buddy, like, I'm not a big fan. All right. You've been basically being way too freaking greedy. But I think a lot of this, humans are naturally divisive. Like, that's just who we are. I mean, we've had so many isms and all this other stuff throughout life where, like, this class of people, like cultural difference, like whatever it is, we are naturally easily divisive. But I feel more recently we've found that division makes it easier to make money. So you can utilize certain algorithms and things like that to make people mad about this, but then they'll also spend money. So it doesn't matter if they're angry as long as they're spending the money and we're making that money. So I think when you pair the ability to make people divided, which is what skill-based matchmaking is, or engagement optimized matchmaking, like you actively know that you're manipulating these people. You know that. But because you manipulate them, they spend more money. Like, when you put those two things together, manipulation to make people more divided and the ability to make money, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And some people see it for what it is, and some people just can't.
Well, that's why the white paper to me was
bullshit.
Like, yeah,
oh my God. I've talked about this 100 times. Have you actually read like some of the questions where they added keywords specifically to make it sound like they don't do engagement optimized? Hold on. I'm going to actually pull this up.
Dude,
Call of Duty. What is it called? Matchmaking?
Yeah, matchmaking.
Call of Duty matchmaking. And if you look at it, like the first question, like the first community question that they had was, does Call of Duty consider player engagement, the keyword being engagement, and then in parentheses, they put time played as a factor in matchmaking. Now, what ends up happening is you have people that look at this and they're like, see, I told you it's not engagement optimized matchmaking. It's like, that's not what that is. They are literally using that buzzword to make it sound like it's not that, when in reality, they have a whole system that showcases it's all about engagement and retention over fun. That is the whole point of what they gave us. And if you can't read between the lines, then you won't get that. But if you do read between the lines and you recognize they're using specific buzzwords to make us stay like not angry, then you'll realize what it really is.
Well, people are purposely obtuse about that, in my opinion, because, like, first of all, they have a nest egg they have to protect.
Absolutely.
So why the fuck would they, like, of course, whatever data they put in there is going to support what they're doing. Like, why wouldn't it? Like, and to take that at anything more than face value is absurd to me. Like, I don't believe a fucking word in that white paper. None of it.
Yeah, I think obviously they added in the things that they use, but I think they changed it to a very like simplified way. When they put skill/performance, that is everything having to do with your skill/performance. That's not your KD. That is how often you move around the map, the amount of steps that you took during that match. How many times do you throw a grenade in that match? What is your accuracy? Like, all of these things go into it. And it's not like this small, like, what's your KD? Maybe we should take that into account. It's everything. They have all of this data on the back end, and then they add in stuff to throw us off, like playlist diversity, recent maps and modes, and then voice chat is hilarious. That's actually obviously the most or the least important thing on there. But input device, if you don't know, if you play on keyboard and mouse, you'll naturally get harder lobbies because they try and like separate you from the controller players who are, no offense to controller players, I am one now, pretty much sheep, because they think that like aim assist is the most important thing on the planet, when it's been proved over and over and over that you'll naturally just learn to aim better without aim assist. Some people are going to suck. It is what it is. But if you notice, people at the top tend to fight people that move a lot faster. So they can't rely on aim assist all the time. They do learn to use it in the way that they need to use it, but they can't rely on it. They have to learn to actually aim better. So there's just like so many different things on this list that express one thing in a specific way. But if you actually look at what it is, you'll understand that it's just all just bullshit. It's all there just to put us at bay, because we were having this big conversation about the matchmaking system and how broken the matchmaking system is. And then they were like, but we use other things.
Well, it's so interesting.
Keep you retained.
It's so interesting too, because this is the whole thing has been all multiplayer, right? And I will die on the hill that the Warzone algorithm is way more complicated than the one that they talk about here for multiplayer.
It has to be,
because and it's one of those things of like, so I camo grind the last, since MW2, I've done the camo grind every year. And it's like, for me, I want to be as efficient as possible. Right. So if I'm doing sniper rifles and I get put in shipment, I don't want to play that map because I'm not going to get long shots in shipment, right? So I will back out. And so what I've learned over the years is how to really fine tune and manipulate, kind of that, how that matchmaking manipulates you, because I naturally just have come across it just trying to grind guns efficiently, right? And it's been eye-opening. It was eye-opening to compare my experiences to what they talk about, because I can tell you that most of the things in multiplayer that they talk about, they do focus on. However, it's not like it's not the way that they present it, right? Like they present it as this kind of like holistic overarching thing, and it's like very clearly they want to keep you playing the game as much as possible, and so they will adjust what's important based on what you're doing. And that's not necessarily true in Warzone, because I have been all over the board in Warzone and nothing changes. And Warzone has been a completely different experience. And so I think there's so much going on in Warzone that they are not treating the Warzone matchmaking the same way they treat multiplayer. And I think people don't even consider that. And they read what they read in this white paper, and they're like, oh, this is the way matchmaking works. See, look, matchmaking, it says right here that matchmaking only cares about these things. And it's like, there's no way. Like, I'm convinced that there is a mechanism that rates your play style and pigeonholes your account as a certain play style. And that is a permanent thing, right? Like, you can't, so like, you can go in and, and it's like what you're saying, like how often you move around the map, right? How often you fire your gun, how often you use advanced movement like slide canceling. Like, they know all this stuff. And they said that when they were prepping for MW2 is, they had a whole conversation. Somebody did.
We have the data.
Yeah, we know who slide cancels, how much they slide cancel. And it's like, and so this is something in the tech field, people don't understand how much you get tracked and how many things get followed, right? Like, if you're on your phone and you're scrolling your phone, right? They know if you've stopped scrolling for a second. Like, they know whatever this was caught your attention. And they catalog that, right? Same thing with games. Like, these online games, like, they know every time you do an action, they know what happened, right? The telemetry gets saved, like, and their system can go back and crunch all the numbers and say, all right, this person slide cancels 2.5 times per second. So therefore, they're obviously an aggressive, more mobility player. How often you chase bounties, how often you chase all this stuff. Like, that's all stuff they have every ability to calculate and compare and build a model of who you are and how you play the game. And it's like, in multiplayer, I 100% agree. It's all about keeping you just playing the next game, right? Because multiplayer is all about how many games you play versus Call of Duty, versus Warzone, which is more of how you play that they're matchmaking you by. And it's crazy to look at how for me to look at like how they build lobbies when I play Warzone versus like when I watch other people play Warzone that play different than me. Like, when they build lobbies, I'm like, how do you get these lobbies? I'm not even that good. How do I not get these lobbies? And it's because they have all the data. It's all data driven.
Yeah. Yeah, I am actually a firm believer that the amount that you move actually makes a big difference and the speed at which you move actually makes a big difference in your algorithm for matchmaking. I got shadow banned on Warzone nearing the end of Warzone 3, and like asked to see if anybody had like an account that I could use because I really needed to get content. And my moderator, Tammy, she was like, hey, you can use my account because like I don't really play Warzone. Turns out she needed the account to play zombies, and I got a shadow banned. But
good job.
Well, when you drop 25 because you literally try to raise the like lobby KD by I played for like multiple hours without recording a single thing because I'm like, I don't want it to look like I'm in a 2-box lobby. That's not what I want. That is not the kind of content I want to produce. I don't give a shit. So I played on our account for a few hours, and then whenever I hopped in to like kind of take it a little, like it was a slow progression, but whenever I hopped in to like record my video, of course I get an easy lobby, and I'm like, fuck. So I dropped 25, and I know I got one kill, instant shadow ban. It was so fast because I know that they saw like the like kill cam of me getting kill, and they were like, all right, no, he's cheating, even though I was just using the DTR. But whenever I played on her account, like I have watched her walk around the map. And it's not about whether or not she's getting a lot of kills or a lot of deaths or anything like that. I've watched her walk around the map and just look at shit on the wall. And she will be like, "Oh wow, this is a nice soap dispenser here in the bathroom. Oh, did you know there's a teddy bear here?" And it's like she'll play Warzone like that. And whether or not she gets more kills or deaths doesn't matter. But because she like moves slow, the first game when I hopped on her account, I was middle of the map. I watched multiple players crouch walking around corners out in the open, gun ADS like this. I was like, are there fucking bots in this game? Are there bots in this?
No, because the bots.
No, they're real.
They stand around and walk and like
they stand and walk.
Like,
yeah.
And they shoot
I literally
you. They don't
ran
hit you.
circles
They shoot
around
you,
somebody. I ran circles around somebody until they died to the storm. I was like, what's going on? They couldn't hit me for the life of them. And I was like, I can't do this. And it's nothing against Tammy. I think it literally came down to the fact that she often doesn't move around the map. She's just checking shit out in random places until the end.
Vibing.
Yeah, she's just vibing. But she'll eventually like get more kills than deaths, but that doesn't matter because she plays it super slow.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's such a weird experience with the matchmaking system. I wish that there was real transparency with it, but obviously it's all patents and NDAs and bullshit like that, and they can only give us so much information without us being very aware that it's all for the sake of money and completely making everybody pissed at Activision for doing that stuff. So
that's why they took away the API too, where we don't have the stat tracker websites.
I think that's actually such a big deal that people just don't talk about enough, is that they don't allow the API anymore. It was, to be fair, it was causing also a ton of misinformation. Like, I swear the number of times where it's like, this person's using a VPN. It's like, no, they're just playing at 9 a.m. Like, there were so many different things where it was just like, this person's cheating, this person's cheating, this person's cheating.
Yeah,
dude, it's
huge
insane.
difference.
It's ironically, sometimes you either get super easy lobbies, or you'll get like a lobby full of demons and they just got really lucky that everybody was off at the exact same time, like out of a game at the same time. And they're like, ha 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 ha, all the players that play during the day are about to get
Dude, Saturday morning, I hopped on a Saturday morning a few weeks ago and I'm like, holy fuck, dude, this is like way sweatier than normal. Like it was fucking demon time, dude.
I think Sunday night, Saturday morning, any weekday after, I think like 6, it starts at 4, it starts getting sweatier and sweatier, but after 6 you're just screwed. But if you play in the morning, I mean, like I think it's like 5 a.m. to really around like 11, you're guaranteed to get easier lobbies. And there's still going to be people that are sweating in there. Like the number of times I've run into Metaphor on like the daily is not few, but it's much easier to get easy lobbies at a specific time of day. It does depend on your server as well.
It's interesting, the servers, the way. So I've gotten to the point where I know what server I'm on by the ping that I get, right?
Yeah,
because
if you pay attention to ping, you absolutely will learn that at some point.
And it's
I'm on 40. All right, I'm in Atlanta.
Yep. And so it's like when I'm at 70, I'm in Texas. I'm with you guys. When I'm at 10, I'm in the Bay Area server. There used to be 2 servers in the Bay Area. I think they consolidated them. So it's like there's one server in the Bay Area. I'm
pretty sure they did.
And then I get 20 ping and I'm down in LA. And it's like the populations of these servers, and there used to be a 30 ping server in Washington, but I think they shut that down, or at least maybe they just made it Canadian. But so I haven't seen that one since Warzone 2. But it's the people that play, that get into these different servers, like they're completely different. Like the LA server, everybody speaks Spanish and they run shotguns.
Dude, it's the same for Texas. I swear to God.
Like Puta Madre so many fucking times, dude, in the game chat. I don't even know what the fuck that means. I had to look that up. Exactly. Yeah, dude.
No,
like
that's what I do
when I'm in the Bay Area server. Everybody's Chinese. Not everybody, but a lot of.
Correct. I mean, it actually makes sense,
right?
And that makes a lot of sense because they can VPN over a little bit easier to that than they can a lot of other places.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's like it. But in every and it's like. It used to be Pacific servers at night were like the soft spot. Like people wanted to get those because they were easy. And I think the word got out because holy shit, they're sweaty right now. But it's like I get on in the morning and I'm like, hey, did I load boot camp by mistake? Like what is happening here? And it's
dude,
like,
I'm telling you, just get rid of the VPN. Just cut it off. Whoever's using a VPN now, your lobbies are easier if you don't VPN. Like I don't use a VPN. I don't use like No lag. I don't even have my NetDuma plugged in. Like, I'm just using the default router. Like, I have nothing on. The only thing that I'll ever turn on, and that's if like servers get a little wonky, is I'll turn on exit lag, and it just like helps your trace route to the actual server. Like, it doesn't make you, it keeps you from bouncing to 10 different places. You just go straight, like, this is the best one, dump, and then you're there. But I'm telling you, you get rid of that shit.
I need to switch over to that because I think the routing to the Bay Area server is broken for me.
It probably
because
is.
I'm running, like, I get connected there, I get 20 to 30% packet loss. So like I can't play Warzone right now because like it's a minimum of about 5 to 10% packet loss.
It'll probably help.
And then I get like 20-30% on the regular. And it's like it's like playing a damn flip book. And so right now the only time that I've had decent ping or decent not packet loss is when I've played with Jay and I'm in Texas. But then I'm at 70 ping. And so it's kind of still a problem.
It can all depend on your ISP, I think, because some like ISPs work on their own like servers, right? So you'll bounce to their servers usually,
and how they route in.
And they'll force route you specific ways. But if you use exit lag, it like kind of swings it a different way. It's like, all right, we see that this server's messed up. Let's go around that. And even though technically it's a little bit like it's 2 ping more, you're not forced into the shitty server. You just kind of go around it.
Yeah, you're not going through the bad
AT&T
data center.
Fiber, what do you have?
Me? I have Spectrum fiber. AT&T got a little chalked lately. I don't know what happened. I was having a good time, and then all of a sudden we moved to a new house, and I think there's like a dirty connection, but every time they come to check it, like it shows it's fine. So I was like, all right, that's it. I'm switching to Spectrum, and Spectrum just installed True Fiber in our neighborhood. The dude came in, and he pulled it with one wire, one single fiber cable, all the way like 200, 300 yards down the road. He ran a single fiber cable underground, up the side of my house, into my attic, down into the freaking modem.
Wow, dude.
He was like, listen, brother, if you're having issues with dirty connections, this is what I'm going to do. And I was like, you son of a bitch, I'm in. And he did that. And he was like, let me know how it goes.
To work.
Yeah, he said, let me know how it goes. And then obviously I don't have his fucking phone number. And he comes back and he does our neighbor's house. I didn't mention this to our neighbors, but apparently they started having AT&T issues. So somewhere along the way, leading to the AT&T box nearby, there was a dirty connection. And with fiber, that's a big deal.
It's
so
probably the
he came back and I told him,
they have a junction box. You can see them on the if they're above you, it's like a canister. It's about that big around, and it's like a giant Pringles can, and it's a splice box where they connect all the fiber connections. And so sometimes the splice is bad on one.
Yeah.
There'll be like 250 splices there, and you'll have one that's bad, and they're like, if you're on that carrier line, it's like, they're not going to touch that. But yeah, it's like I'm on 5G wireless right now.
I think the people in the chat know.
Yeah. And then my other connection is a point-to-point microwave connection to a 10G connection about a mile away.
Man, he's got 2 fucking microwaves. No, I'm just kidding.
It's all fine and great. I get 10 ping solid, 100 down, 40 up, 10 ping all day long. It's a great connection. But if heavens forbid a bird flies through that line of sight, I'm done. Right. And it's like right now we've got a huge storm going on. Like, thankfully you can't hear it, but it's like, that's, everything's bad.
It's the rooster crowing in the background, man. We used to have a rooster crowing in the background because he lives on a farm.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I pen them all up because, they keep getting eaten and not by me. And that pissed me off.
Yeah. Those are my chicken.
Yeah. But yeah, man, hey, it's, we're pushing along on time here, but, I appreciate you hopping in. We had a great time. I had a great time talking to you.
Yeah, me too.
And I think Jay feels the same way, but we've had a great episode. Hopefully it's not too long that people will stop listening to it. But for everybody that's still here, hey, we appreciate you. We appreciate you coming by. Glad to have Expel. If he ever decides he wants to come back and suffer through us again, would love to have him. But
anytime, man.
But with that, we're gonna log off. Expel, just hang around for a few more minutes to make sure everything uploads. You'll see a little ticker in the bottom corner. Otherwise, thanks all for coming by. We'll catch you on the next one.